Chapter 245. Elvis furrowed his brows tightly and clenched his fists before slowly relaxing them. He just quietly accompanied Gu Mingming, waiting for her to cry and fall into a deep sleep beside him. How many more times was he going to watch her cry for Leah? Pretending to be silent was the best he could do. Did he still have to personally ask her to take Leah as her partner? In the past, he could bear with the heartache and say such words. But now, he was ultimately selfish. After tasting the one and only bestowed by Gu Mingming, who would be willing to break it? He was not afraid of the dangers of the beast world. For Gu Mingming, he could shake the heavens and earth, become a deity or a demon. As long as he could protect her, he could do anything. But he was afraid of her tears. He could not bear to see her force herself to give up on Leah, even though she clearly liked him. As long as she could be happy, he could accept Leah. He definitely could. But why? Why was Xiao Meng crying in his arms, seeking his warmth and support? Elvis slowly opened his eyes and used the beast skin to cover Gu Mingming. Then, he got off the ground and walked to the outermost room. Leah was still staring blankly at his own tail. Without saying a word, Elvis went up and punched Lee's face. Leah did not resist and flew out, crashing into the wall before sliding down. Wiping the corners of her mouth, she raised her head to look at Elvis, asking, "Are you angry because I wasted the opportunity you created, or because you're afraid that after I really reconcile with Meng Meng, I'll split your love?" Elvis took a step forward and strangled Lee's neck. He stared coldly into his eyes and said, "I am angry because you made her cry again." Leah was experiencing the feeling of suffocation, but he just smiled. He did not seem to be afraid of the lack of oxygen or even death. Elvis suddenly let go and turned to walk into the cave. Leah looked at Elvis's back view and asked in surprise, "You're not going to kill me or throw me out?" Elvis did not turn back and just said with his back facing Leah, "I won't do anything that will make Xiao Meng sad." After Elvis finished speaking, he did not stay any longer and directly returned to the inner room. He started a fire and set up a pot of ginger soup. He also wanted to be like Leah and make lots of delicious food for Gu Mingming, but his talent was limited and he really could not do anything. This was the only recipe that he would not mess up. Compared to the leftovers he saw outside just now, it seemed a lot shabbier, but this was the best thing he could prepare for Gu Mingming. When Gu Mingming woke up, a long time had passed. The moment she opened her eyes, she realized that Elvis had already woken up. She jumped up in joy and flew into Elvis's arms like a butterfly, hugging him tightly and refusing to let go. Elvis patted Gu Mingming's back lightly and said, "Sorry for making you worry." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "As long as you are fine, I will be thankful. I don't care about anything else, as long as you are fine." Elvis's heart felt warm and guilty at the same time. Did he make Xiao Meng worried because he pretended to be unconscious? What a pity. His difficulties were not worth mentioning. The energy I stored in third level was too much, so I lost control when I was leveling up. My body could not withstand the explosive energy, so I fainted. Actually, it's fine. Look, aren't I fine now? Aside from the topic. Chapter 246. She only heaved a sigh of relief after making sure that other than the wound on his back, there were no other abnormalities. She threw herself back into Elvis's arms and hugged his waist, saying, "You scared me to death that day. You were perfectly fine and suddenly collapsed. I thought I was going to become a widow after just getting married." Elvis shook his head and said, "You scared me to death that day." As Gu Mingming said, she punched Elvis in his arms and said, "Don't scare me like this next time. Do you understand?" Elvis let her do whatever she wanted. He felt especially blissful even after being hit. He nodded his head cautiously and replied, "All right, I won't scare you in the future." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis and took 2 deep breaths. Then, she suddenly remembered that Leah was still outside. She cleared her throat awkwardly and said, I'll let Leah stay in our cave." Before Elvis could interrupt, Gu Mingming had already sat up straight like a spring. She looked into Elvis's eyes and continued explaining in a flustered manner, "Don't misunderstand. It's not what you think it is." Elvis was taken aback and asked with a smile, "What I think?" Gu Mingming choked on her words. She pursed her lips and said, "No matter what you think, it's not what you think." "Oh." Elvis smiled and nodded his head, indicating that he understood. Gu Mingming held Elvis's hand and said seriously, "You were unconscious that day and covered in blood. I was terrified and was especially worried that you wouldn't wake up. I was also afraid that those weird fellows would return. I was really helpless." Then, at this moment, Leah appeared at the entrance of the cave. "He agreed to treat you on the condition that he stays in our cave until spring. I thought that there was no reason for him to risk his life in the wind and snow to do something for us, so I agreed. That's all, really, there's nothing else." I always believe in Xiao Meng's words. Elvis held Gu Mingming's hand and gently caressed her uneasy face. She definitely did not know how guilty she looked. She was obviously speaking the truth, but she could not make it seem as though it was a matter of course. Gu Mingming asked carefully, "You aren't angry?" Elvis asked back, "Why should I be angry?" Gu Mingming twisted her fingers and said, "It's the matter of making the decision to let Leah stay in our cave." Elvis's heart warmed and he smiled. "The two of us have already made it, so strictly speaking, this cave is yours. You can let whoever you want to stay in and chase whoever you want to leave. No one has the right to question your decision, not even me." Gu Mingming tilted her head and asked, "Who says I can't?" As a couple, everything had to be discussed. If you feel uncomfortable, of course, you can say it. It was my fault to let someone else stay in my house. If it were me, I would definitely feel uncomfortable. I can understand if you were angry, but can you not be angry for too long? It was really a special situation back then. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming's little shoulders and looked straight into her eyes, saying, "I'm not angry, really not." This time, it was Gu Mingming's turn to be confused. She tilted her head and looked at Elvis, asking, "I let my ex-boyfriend stay at my house, and when you were unconscious, aren't you angry? Aren't you afraid that he's your next-door neighbor?" Next-door neighbor? Elvis did not understand. He was very sure that there was only his cave in his territory. Next door seemed to be the cave for storing dried, salted fish. Was the salted fish nicknamed Next-Door Neighbor Old Wong? But why should he be afraid? And even if it was salted, Leah was a salted fox. Why would he be a salted fish? I don't understand. Aside from the topic. Chapter 247. Gu Mingming rolled up her sleeves and said angrily, "Let me ask you, what if I lose control and pounce on Leah when you are unconscious? Aren't you worried at all?" Elvis thought for a while and shook his head, replying seriously, "If you want to keep him as your partner, I will support it. You don't have to worry that we won't get along well because we have been adapting to this kind of life since a long time ago. So, if you like him..." "Wait a minute." Gu Mingming looked up and made a stop gesture. She frowned and looked at Elvis, asking, "What kind of this kind of life do you mean you have been adapting to since a long time ago?" Elvis could vaguely hear Lee's hurried footsteps rushing towards them. Their years of tacit understanding made him deeply understand that he seemed to have fallen into some serious danger. Elvis clearly knew that in a situation where the enemy was in the dark and he was in the light, it was not wise to act recklessly. So he slowly took a small step back, then another step back. His eyes were fixed on Gu Mingming the entire time, not daring to blink even once. Leah braked suddenly outside the entrance of the cave, then took 2 deep breaths to make himself look calm. He then walked in and pretended to be nonchalant, saying, "Mingming, there are still 2 things you haven't done on the condition you promised me." Gu Mingming's lips curled up and she sneered. "Are you here to save the situation? This is this kind of life that you two have practiced and practiced?" Leah looked at Elvis, who was still in a daze and did not know what he did wrong. He really felt a heart-wrenching feeling of mourning for his misfortune and being angry at his incompetence. Taking a deep breath, he smiled. "Since when did we practice anything? It's just that Elvis is the tribe leader and I am the witch doctor. So we spend more time together, so naturally we are partners who have a better rapport." Gu Mingming stretched out a finger and gestured for him to keep quiet. Then she pointed at Elvis and hooked her finger, saying, "Hubby, come here." Elvis instinctively felt that it was dangerous, but since Xiao Meng was calling him, how could he not go over? So, Elvis braced himself and walked back to Gu Mingming's side. Gu Mingming stroked Elvis's face with a smile. Then, she suddenly pulled his ear and said, "We're both thousand-year-old foxes. Why are you playing strange stories from a Chinese studio in front of me? Tell me honestly, what kind of life is this?" Leah grimaced when he saw Elvis's ears being pulled up. He instinctively covered his own ears. He could feel the pain, even from 2 feet away. Elvis tilted his head and followed Gu Mingming's strength to tilt his face upwards. He gritted his teeth in pain and said, Xiao Ming, don't be angry. I'll speak, all right, I'll speak." Only then did Gu Mingming let go. She dusted her hands before wrapping them in front of her chest. Hugging her shoulders, she straightened her neck and looked at Elvis. "Speak." Afraid that Gu Mingming would get angry again, Elvis covered his ears and said, "Leah said that according to the records, the chances of us getting the messenger of the beast deity is very high. In order to keep the messenger of the beast deity in the tribe and protect her well, the best way is for both of us to mate with the messenger of the beast deity. For this, we've lived together for many years to train our rapport and coordination so that we can take better care of you after mating." Gu Mingming raised her hand again and interrupted Elvis's words. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Elvis. She smiled a little creepily and said, "When you guys were practicing, you didn't know that I'm the messenger of the beast deity, right?" Aside from the topic, the recommendation would start today and it would last for 3 days. In these 3 days, there would be 6 chapters a day. After the recommendation ends, it would almost be on the shelves. So, little babies who are good at reading should hurry up and not save too many chapters. Then, Chapter 248. Elvis nodded his head honestly and answered, "Yeah, I don't know." Leah stood behind them and really wanted to slap him to death with his claws. Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders and smiled. She sat on the ground softly and looked up at Elvis. Tears filled her eyes in an instant. Elvis was stunned and hurried forward to hug Gu Mingming. "What's wrong? Why are you crying all of a sudden? If you're angry, just pull my ears. I promise I won't hide, all right?" Gu Mingming pushed Elvis away forcefully and pointed at his nose, asking, "Tell me, do you like me or the messenger of the beast deity?" Elvis replied with a dumbfounded face, "You're the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mingming kicked him and said, "What if I'm not? What if a real messenger of the beast deity, wearing a Qilin armor and stepping on colorful clouds, comes one day? When that time comes, will you not want me anymore? Won't you treat me well?" Sob, sob, sob. "Elvis, you actually don't love me, right? You mated with me because you thought I was the messenger of the beast deity, right?" Elvis was completely dumbfounded. He tilted his head and looked at Leah, who was about to sneak away quietly, saying, "Explain to Xiao Ming. Tell her that she's the messenger of the beast deity." Leah sighed and patted Elvis's shoulder, saying, "Elvis, you really deserve to die." Elvis completely did not understand how things had developed to this stage. Wasn't everything fine just now? Under normal circumstances, shouldn't the female be very happy when the first partner generously welcomed a new member? Why did Xiao Ming suddenly cry? Who could tell him what was going on? Leah took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Gu Mingming. He held on to Gu Mingming's hand that was pointing at Elvis and pressed it down. He used his other hand to gently wipe away Gu Mingming's tears. His smile was always gentle as he looked at Gu Mingming and said, "You cry for another male so easily. This makes me feel very jealous." Gu Mingming waved her hand and broke free from Li's hand, saying, "We're quarreling. Why are you, a lodger, butting in blindly?" Leo was taken aback and his expression dimmed. Taking a deep breath, he held on to Gu Mingming's hand again and said seriously, "I will tell you everything you want to know, but you have to calm down first, okay?" Gu Mingming wiped away her tears harshly and gave Elvis a look. Elvis then sat behind Gu Mingming obediently and pulled the corner of Gu Mingming's shirt carefully. He pushed the blame to Leah and said, "It's all Li's idea. He can definitely explain it clearly. Don't be angry. Listen to him, okay?" Gu Mingming gave Elvis a "I'll deal with you later" expression and turned to look at Leah. "Tell me, what exactly happened?" Looking at the interaction between Elvis and Gu Mingming, Lee's heart felt like it was churning like a tsunami, but on the surface he remained calm and said, "You've seen Dumbo before, so you should know that I was the ninth highness of Sauter in the past, and Sauter is the messenger tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. Although the previous messenger had passed away almost 1,000 years ago, Sauter's position in the beast world is still very important. Do you know why?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head. She had no intention of guessing and did not want to use her brain. She just wanted to know the answer as soon as possible. That's because the previous messenger of the beast deity said before she died, 1,000 years later, the messenger will descend upon Sauter once again to continue the unfinished mission. Everyone was afraid of this last sentence. No one dared to make an enemy out of a tribe that serves the messenger of the beast deity, so Sauter has an even more resounding name in the beast world, called the Messenger Tribe. But as a prince, I know a version that the world does not know. That is, the messenger did not mention Sauter in her last words. Her last words were, 1,000 years later, the messenger will descend once again to continue the unfinished mission. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby from Xiaoxiang Academy, Liviel, for the flowers. Chapter 249. Gu Mingming frowned impatiently and lifted her chin. "Get to the point. What has this got to do with me? What has it got to do with you and Elvis being in cahoots with each other?" Leah looked at Elvis and then at Gu Mingming. He swung his furry big tail and said with a serious face, "I'm a fox, not a wolf, and Elvis and I did not have an affair." Gu Mingming almost lost her composure and coughed to hide her uncontrollable laughter. She patted her thighs and said, "Don't talk about these useless things. Get to the point quickly." Leah knew that Gu Mingming was not as angry as before after being teased by him. At least she had stopped crying, so he calmed down a lot and started to tell the story. "Because of some reasons, I was chased out of Sauter, and no one dared to take me in despite the risk of offending the messenger's tribe. So I live a life worse than stray beasts. When I was almost starving to death, it was Elvis who saved me and brought me back to Saint Nazir." Leah paused for a moment as he looked at the cowardly Elvis behind Gu Mingming. It was really hard to associate him with that lone wolf from before. After living together for so many years, he had seen almost all of Elvis's brutality, tyranny, and even unbearable side, but he had never seen. Even before today, he did not even dare to imagine that Elvis would have such a helpless and cautious side. This look felt like a lifetime had passed. Leah tidied up his emotions and continued, "Saint Nazir is the only place in the entire beast world where I can survive. So I have to protect this place no matter what, strengthen this place, and make it an existence that surpasses Sauter. Only then can I break free from the shackles they placed on me and obtain true freedom. And to surpass the messenger's tribe, the only way is to turn Saint Nazir into the new messenger's tribe of the beast deity and let Sauter's glory become a legend, just a legend." Gu Mingming did not interrupt Li's words. She knew that the understatement of some reasons must be very serious. Otherwise, how would a prince end up being chased out of his tribe with nowhere to go? Gu Mingming quickly imagined the Qing dynasty drama of 9 dragons vying for the throne in her mind. She became nervous and became even more focused as she listened to Li's narration. Leah did not know what Gu Mingming was thinking. Seeing that she was willing to listen, he was naturally happy. After all, she was not willing to talk to him anymore. Cutting open his own wound was very painful, especially a wound that had been injured twice. But if this was the only way to get close to her, Leah was willing to tear open that festering scar and expose his own flesh. "I've deduced the records I've seen in Sauter and know that the arrival of the messenger of the beast deity will randomly appear in one of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The previous messenger of the beast deity came from fire, so this time I excluded fire from my options. I was in charge of observing metal and wood, while Elvis was in charge of observing water and earth. The lake you appeared in is the location of the water that I deduced. This is also one of the reasons why Elvis and I firmly believe that you are the messenger of the beast deity from start." Gu Mingming frowned. She had a question she wanted to ask, but she felt that it was rude to interrupt someone else's story. So she put on a conflicted expression and suppressed the curiosity in her heart. Leah seemed to have seen through Gu Mingming's thoughts and said, "Ask whatever you want to know." Out of topic. Chapter 250. Since Leah had taken the initiative to ask, Gu Mingming did not stand on ceremony. Rubbing her chin, Gu Mingming asked in confusion, "Since we could deduce the location of the 5 element from the records, why did the people of Sauter still search for the messengers of the beast deity? They could have just squatted down and waited." But Leah suddenly laughed and tapped Gu Mingming's little head, saying, "Do you think that anyone can understand those ancient books?" Gu Mingming's eyes lit up. Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and asked, "Why? Other than you, everyone in Sauter is illiterate. No one can read?" Leah shook his head and said, "We don't need to know the words in the ancient books, because from the moment we were born, our respective father beasts had taught us sentence by sentence. In the Sauter royal family, everyone knows the contents of the ancient books by heart. However, knowing does not equal to understanding, and understanding does not equal to being able to use it." Gu Mingming still did not understand, but did not know where to start asking. Leah sorted out his thoughts, then continued in a way that Gu Mingming could understand. "When the previous leader of Sauter was still in power, my beast father was the witch doctor in the tribe. Only he knew about praying, medical skills, and the deduction methods mentioned in the ancient books. And he only taught me, because if there were no accidents, I would be the next witch doctor to inherit his legacy. I should have followed the message left behind by the messenger of the beast deity and welcomed the new messenger back to Sauter, so that the history that was changed by the tribe leader 1,000 years ago would become reality. But the accident happened so unexpectedly. I, the only person who knew how to deduce, was chased away, and no one in Sauter knew where the new messenger of the beast deity would descend. Their only way was to search everywhere, like searching for a specific leaf in the vast forest, but it was all in vain." Gu Mingming nodded her head, not really understanding, and accepted Li's explanation. Although there were many things that Leah had vaguely mentioned, but everyone had their own secrets that they did not wish to reveal. Some of the past was like underwear, worn, but no one was willing to show it to others. Out of respect, Gu Mingming did not ask for more details and just waited for Leah to continue. Leah was very grateful for Gu Mingming's thoughtfulness as it gave him some breathing space. Heaving a long sigh of relief, Leah then continued, "The arrival of the messenger is not a small matter. We cannot hide it forever. So before you come, Elvis and I plan to improve our rapport and abilities so that we can work together to become the best partners. When a messenger of the beast deity descends, we will pledge our loyalty to her, and Elvis will become a messenger's first partner. As for me, as a family member, I will stay in the messenger's family to assist Elvis, protect the messenger, and keep her in St. Nazir." Gu Mingming was taken aback. She slowly lowered her head and sat up straight, leaving a gap between her and Elvis's chest. Even though there was a bonfire in the cave, Gu Mingming could still feel the chilly air. She did not look at anyone's eyes and just said calmly, "So, from the start, you guys approached me with a motive, right?" Elvis was taken aback. Only then did he understand what trouble he had gotten himself into by blurting out this kind of life. He wanted to salvage the situation, but realized that he did not even have the confidence to say no. That time when he entered the lake deep in the forest, from the start, wasn't he aiming for the identity of the messenger of the beast deity? Digression. Chapter 251. If I had an ulterior motive when I first got close to you, then are you going to deny all my sincerity later on? Leah did not answer Gu Mingming's question, but asked her back. The reason why the Snow Fox tribe could gain the favor of the previous messenger was because of their secret fox seductive fragrance. Once it's used, the person who breathes it would sink into a beautiful fantasy, adding a lot of fun to the act of making love. No one in this world could resist the smell of the fox seductive fragrance. Even a messenger of the beast deity would be bewitched. I could have used the fox seductive fragrance on you after you became an adult, allowing you to mate while you were unconscious. When you woke up, you would only remember the pleasure and not notice anything strange. Gumengmeng's eyes widened, and she took a step back with her guard up. This step caused her to fall back into Elvis's arms. Leah maintained his faint smile, as if he did not notice Gumengmeng's guard up. He continued, "This should have been the simplest and most efficient method, but..." Elvis did not agree. He said he did not want to force you when you were unwilling. He wanted to wait for you to say yes. Gumengmeng turned around and met Elvis's furrowed brows. She had an indescribable, complex feeling in her heart. She felt that Elvis was with her because she was the messenger of the beast deity, and this flaw in their relationship was the crux of her unhappiness. But Leah was right. From Elvis's point of view, not stopping Leah from using the fox seductive fragrance was the right choice. But because of her willing, he had rejected something that could have been easily achieved. Could she say that Elvis did not love her? If Elvis only wanted a messenger of the beast deity, why did he reject Lee's suggestion? Why did he have to wait for her to say yes? Leah gave Gumengmeng sufficient time to think before continuing slowly. If he only wanted you to stay in St. Nazaire, back then, with our development, mating was just a matter of time. If he did not love you, why did he? Enough. Elvis stopped Leah from continuing and just hugged Gumengmeng in his arms. He sighed and said, "Xiao Meng, it's true that I came to the lakeside to fetch the messenger of the beast deity and then met you. But my feelings towards you are also true. Trust me, okay?" Gumengmeng raised her head and looked into Elvis's blue eyes. That pair of deep emotions had never changed, but at this moment, Gumengmeng could not believe what she was seeing. Her voice was indifferent as she asked, "Apart from what you've just said, what else are you hiding from me?" Elvis pursed his thin lips into a straight line and met her gaze. He accepted all the questions and suspicions in her eyes, but refused to open his mouth to explain a single word. Gumengmeng wriggled her body, trying to break free from Elvis's embrace. She said weakly, "Enough, it's really enough. If you're not willing to tell me anything, why should I believe you? Tell her." Lee's voice sounded from behind Gumengmeng, carrying a lot of helplessness and despair. It was just a voice, but Gumengmeng could hear the misery in it. "Anyway, she already hates me enough. She knows that it doesn't make a difference whether she wears one more or one less. Don't cause unnecessary misunderstanding because of me. It's not worth it." Out of topic. Chapter 252. Elvis glanced at Leah. He knew that Leah wanted him to push all the blame onto Leah alone, so as to maintain his pure image in Gumengmeng's heart. But he did not want to lie to Gumengmeng. After a moment of silence, Elvis finally opened his mouth. "Actually, the reason why Leah appeared at Nina's house previously was because he lost to me in a duel. He did not betray you. I forced him to leave." Gumengmeng frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" Elvis said in a low and slow voice, "At that time, you said that you can only have one partner and you wanted to leave this place to live in Lee's cave. I knew that if I let you go, I would lose you forever. After all, I'm not as loved by you as Leah. If you left, I would no longer have a chance to protect you. I can tolerate you having many partners by your side. I can also tolerate you not liking me, not caring about me, and even not remembering me. But I cannot lose the right to protect you. So that day, I went to find Leah for a duel, and the loser would leave you. Leah could not defeat me, so it's not that he could not defeat me. He just did not use all his strength." Leah interrupted Elvis's words and continued. "Elvis had not leveled up then, and everyone was at the peak of 3rd level. You fought with your experience while I fought with my brain. Based on my understanding of you, it was not difficult to plot against you. But in order to make it realistic, I had to pay a huge price, and the outcome would definitely be a lose-lose situation. Based on your stance of wanting to fight me to the death, unless you died or I admitted defeat, this matter would never stop. So my judgment then was, I admitted defeat." Gumengmeng closed her eyes and slowly opened them again. She looked at Leah, then at Elvis. She swung her hand and gave Elvis a tight slap on his face. Then she asked calmly, "Will you treat me as the spoils of war belong to the one with the stronger fist?" Then what if the stray beasts that barge into our cave were not them, but someone stronger than you? Are you going to let them take me away? Elvis shook his head and said firmly, Unless I die, no one can snatch you away. Gu Mingming used a finger to poke Elvis's heart and said, I have my own thoughts. I am a human. I am not a prize that you guys can fight over using violence. I made it with you because I love you, not because you're strong. Elvis nodded and hugged Gu Mingming in his arms. With a hoarse voice, he said, Xiao Ming, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Don't be angry, okay? Gu Mingming let out a long sigh and asked with a cold face, Do you know your mistake? Then tell me, where did you go wrong? Elvis was like a primary school student who had just returned from a parents' meeting and was asked to stay behind by his teacher for a private talk. He said anxiously, I shouldn't have challenged Leah to a duel. I won't duel with him anymore. Gu Mingming asked coldly, What else? Elvis cast a pleading look at Leah, but all he got was an envious look from Leah. If Mingming could also interrogate him like this, how good would that be? Unfortunately, he already did not have such qualifications. Chapter 253. Gu Mingming's temper was soothed by Elvis's coaxing. She smiled through her tears and poked his head harshly. She then slowly opened her mouth and said, Firstly, you are not allowed to use me as a wager with others in the future, including but not limited to duels, understand? Elvis hurriedly nodded his head and said understood, then shook his head hurriedly and said, No, no. Gu Mingming frowned and said angrily, Why not? Elvis said, In the beast world, when a male pursues a female, he has to challenge her partner. Only by winning her partner will he have the right to pursue this female. You are so beautiful. You will definitely have a lot of suitors in the future. If I don't accept the challenge, it will be regarded as me agreeing to let them pursue you. That won't do, no. Gu Mingming face-palmed. Was the concept of love in the beast world instilled by physical education teachers? Why was it so simple and crude? You can chase someone else's wife just because you beat her husband? Do you guys think you're bandits? Gu Mingming said, You are sure that I am a messenger of the beast deity, right? Elvis and Leah nodded together. Gu Mingming continued, The messenger of the beast deity can set the rules for the beast world, right? Elvis and Leah looked at each other and nodded in unison. Gu Mingming continued, Damn it, from now on, the rule of males confessing their love to females has to be changed. A male who wanted to woo a female had to first express his love to the female. If the female found this male pleasing to her eyes, she would then send her own male to duel with this pursuer to determine the strength of the pursuer. Only then would she decide whether to accept the pursuer's love. The female doesn't even like you, so why are you fighting with a partner? Even if you beat a pig's brain, the female won't be interested in you. What are you wasting time for? Elvis looked at Leah, and Leah also looked at Elvis. Both of them did not speak. After all, this method of expressing one's love had been used for thousands of years. Changing it wasn't something that could be done overnight. Gu Mingming seemed to have seen through their worries as she patted Elvis's shoulder and said, Let others do whatever they want. Here, that's the rule. If you want to hit my husband, you should at least ask for my opinion first, right? Even if you don't look at the monk's face, look at the Buddha's face. When you hit a husky, you have to look at its owner. Elvis felt that there was nothing wrong with what she said, so he nodded his head seriously and said, All right, I will only fight with males that you like in the future. If he can defeat me, I won't stop him from pursuing you. Gu Mingming patted Elvis's shoulder, as if she had finally convinced the husky not to tear down her house. Seeing that Gu Mingming did not seem to be that angry anymore, Elvis felt that his answer was not bad. So he decided to press on with his victory and finish the rest of the questions while Gu Mingming was in a good mood. So he cleared his throat and asked, Then what's the second one? Leah slapped his own forehead. Was he really suspecting that this retarded fellow in front of him was the real Elvis? How could the image of their family's wise, courageous, calm, and domineering patriarch collapse just like that? Although he wasn't good at scheming people's hearts, he wasn't stupid enough to chase after an opponent who had already given up and asked, Hey, why don't you hit me anymore? Chapter 254. Gumuming's back was facing Leah, so she totally did not know what he was thinking about. She was just very satisfied that Elvis did not try to bluff his way through and just brush her off. Yeah. His attitude was still very proper with that thought. Gumuming's expression became much friendlier. She held Elvis's hand lightly and said in a slightly reproachful tone, "Secondly, don't ever say things like I don't like you, don't care about you, or don't even remember you in the future. We are husband and wife, sharing blessings and hardships, sharing the same fate. We are one family, sharing glory and sorrow. We are people who will support each other till old age and spend the rest of our lives together. How can we not have any relationship? We are related. We are very related." Elvis allowed Gumingming's little hand to poke at his chest again and again. Her little finger seemed to be dipped in yellow gravy, sending that sweet taste into his heart. Elvis held Gumingming's little hand and pulled her into his arms, replying gently, "All right, I will remember. I will never say such things again." Gumingming nodded her head in satisfaction, then said, "And thirdly, yeah." Elvis nodded his head in response, waiting for her to continue. But Gumingming hesitated. She thought for a moment before slowly opening her mouth. What if I am not the messenger of the beast deity? You cannot abandon me." Elvis kissed Gumingming's forehead and said, "Silly girl, my mark has already been branded on your collarbone. I will never abandon you in this lifetime. If you are not the messenger of the beast deity, I will have to thank the beast deity. That way, I can hide you in Saint Nazir for the rest of your life, and you will not have to face those storms." Gumingming finally felt relieved. She tapped Elvis's chest and said, "You good-for-nothing. Isn't it good that your wife is the messenger of the beast deity? That's a rare position. You can get whatever you want. How awe-inspiring." Elvis did not think much of it and said with some melancholy, "But you also said before that the highest authority is called loneliness. You will worry that one day your son will suddenly reach out his claws to you, that one night your partner will suddenly choke you." But Gumingming smiled and looked up at Elvis, asking, "If you want to be the messenger of the beast deity, just say the word, and I will give you the position of the messenger of the beast deity. You don't have to strangle me." Elvis tapped her delicate little nose and said, "Strangling your neck is equivalent to strangling my throat. I will not do such a stupid thing." Gumingming thought about it and felt that it made sense, so she laughed out loud and started fooling around with Elvis. Leah stood up slowly and left. Everything in this cave room was bright and warm, but here there was no place for him. Between Gumingming and Elvis, there was no longer a gap for him to hide in. Leah could not help but think, did Elvis have the same feeling when he and Gumingming were being lovey-dovey? Leah disappeared into the darkness of the cave. With only a wall separating them, he could clearly hear Gumingming's laughter, but it made it seem even colder. Elvis took out a piece of beast skin from the pile at the side. He recognized it as he had personally picked them out one by one and handed them to Elvis before winter. He was looking forward to these beast skins being able to warm Gumingming in the cold winter. But he did not know if these beast skins could also warm him. Chapter 255. In the next few days, the three of them coexisted in a strange harmony. Everything between Leah and Elvis was like yesterday, with all kinds of tacit understanding. On the contrary, Gumingming felt as if she was a third party interfering in the relationship between the best gay friends. For example, when Gumingming opened her eyes early in the morning, she realized that she was hugging a beast form Leah nestled in Elvis's arms. She screamed in horror and kicked Leah onto the ground. Then, she saw Leah slowly climbing up from the ground with his buttocks still on the ground. He rubbed his eyes with one hand and rested his other hand on the side of the bed, looking at Gumingming with sleepy eyes. His large furry tail swayed behind him, looking as innocent as a Samoyed that had been abandoned by its owner. You. Why are you sleeping on my bed?" Gumingming grabbed the beast skin and hugged it in front of her chest, questioning him with a face full of anger. Leah shrugged his shoulders innocently and said, "It was too cold, so I came in to sleep." Elvis was also woken up by the commotion. He hugged Gu Mingming from behind and said with a hoarse voice and lazy tone unique to the morning, "I let him in. His fur is much softer than a wild beast's fur. I thought it would be more comfortable for you to hug him." Gu Mingming's face was filled with question marks. She turned to look at Elvis and thought to herself, "Brother, you are so open-minded." Leah took this opportunity to climb back onto the bed and use his large tail as a blanket to cover Gu Mingming. The two of them then squeezed into Elvis's arms. Leah closed his eyes and said with a sleepy look, "I'm too tired from last night's torment. Let's sleep a while more. F*******. There were 10,000 divine beasts galloping in Gu Mingming's heart. Why did Lee's words sound like they were having an affair? Pushing Lee's large tail away, Gu Mingming flipped over and rode on Elvis's waist. She placed both her hands on his chest and asked, "What did you do with him when I was asleep yesterday?" Elvis held on to Gu Mingming's waist and flipped her over to place her back between him and Leah. He placed his large hand on Gu Mingming's waist and said lazily, "Sleep for a while more. I'll tell you when I wake up." Leah covered Gu Mingming's body with his tail again in tacit understanding. Then Gu Mingming was forcefully sandwiched in the middle by Leah and Gu Mingming, listening to the even breathing above her head. Meow, meow. The two of them actually fell asleep. Gu Mingming stared at him helplessly as countless indescribable images of Elvis and Leah surfaced in her mind. She clearly remembered that she thought Elvis and Leah were a couple right from the start. F***CK. In the years I wasn't here, these two, could it be? F***CK. Finally, the two of them woke up and kissed Gu Mingming on both sides of her face as if they had discussed it beforehand. Then, Leah got off the bed and went to the room closest to the entrance to boil some snow water for Gu Mingming to wash and cook. Elvis carried Gu Mingming into the deeper part of the cave to get new clothes for her to change into. Gu Mingming felt as if grass was growing in her heart as she asked Elvis for a long time, "What did the two of you do last night?" Chapter 256. Gu Mingming heard an important point in Elvis's words and raised her brows, asking, "What did you say just now? Say it again." Elvis looked at Gu Mingming and repeated seriously, "So pretty." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "The previous sentence." Elvis thought for a while and replied, "Just right." Gu Mingming still shook her head and said, "The first sentence." Elvis recalled his words and said, "You're a little fatter than before." Gu Mingming's sudden roar shocked Elvis, and he looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, completely out of the situation. Gu Mingming smiled sinisterly and pointed at Elvis, saying, "I'll give you 3 seconds to escape. If you're still caught by me, you're dead meat." Elvis frowned and said, "Xiao Ming, you didn't inherit my speed, so you can't catch up to me." Gu Mingming was even more furious when she heard that. She randomly pointed in a direction and said, 3. Elvis suddenly felt a chill down his spine and held on to Gu Mingming's shoulders, saying, "Xiao Ming, don't be angry, calm down, calm down." Gu Mingming stretched out 2 fingers and said, 2. Elvis strangely felt that his legs wanted to escape, but he completely did not know what he had said wrong again. Gu Mingming stretched out her 3rd finger and shouted, 1. With that, Gu Mingming started chasing after Elvis all over the cave. She picked up and threw whatever she passed and threw it at Elvis with all her might. The miraculous Elvis did not know why Gu Mingming was chasing after him, and he also did not know why he was running. He also did not understand why Gu Mingming was chasing after him while giving him food while looking so angry. Elvis just ran in front while catching the various food that Gu Mingming gently passed to him. He only turned back when he could no longer hold it in his arms and said, "Xiao Ming, I can't eat so much. If I eat all these, you won't have enough food to last till the end of winter." "Eat. I'll let you eat," Gu Mingming said, and threw a huge potato at Elvis. She thought that with Elvis's skills, he would be able to dodge it easily, but who knew that the fool actually opened his mouth to catch it when he saw that he could not free his hands. But how could Elvis in his human form have such a big mouth to catch a potato the size of dragon fruit? In the end, That potato smashed onto Elvis's nose with a loud thud, and a stream of blood flowed down from his nostrils. "Ah!" Gu Ming Ming exclaimed and ran over anxiously to hold Elvis's face in her hands. She reached out her little hand and touched Elvis's nose bridge lightly. Seeing Elvis gasping in pain, she felt both heartache and anxiety. She pulled him to Leah and rebuked, "Don't you know how to dodge when I hit you? Are you stupid?" He carried a pile of salted fish, salted meat, sweet potatoes, and potatoes in his arms and let Gu Ming Ming pull him out. He smiled faintly at her concerned look and replied, "That's your food. If I dodge it and it smashes against the wall, you won't be able to eat it anymore." Gu Ming Ming's face was filled with concern. Chapter 257. Leah naturally heard clearly what happened between Elvis and Gu Ming Ming just now. He also knew why Elvis was smashed by the potato. Looking at the bruise on Elvis's nose bridge, Leah sat cross-legged and looked at Gu Ming Ming, saying innocently, "Are you talking to me?" Gu Ming Ming knew what Leah meant, but she just felt uncomfortable, especially when she had to call Elvis that used to have a special meaning in front of him. Gu Ming Ming felt as if her mouth was smeared with 502, but looking at Elvis's swollen nose, she could only suppress her unwillingness and said softly, "Daddy Leah, please take a look at Elvis's nose." Leah dug his ears mischievously, indicating that he did not hear clearly just now because his ears were not clean enough. Then he sat in an obedient position and looked up at Gu Ming Ming, saying, "What did you say just now? I didn't hear clearly." Gu Ming Ming clenched her teeth and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Daddy Leah, please take a look at Elvis's nose." Leah then stood up in satisfaction and walked to Elvis. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned forward to look at Elvis's nose seriously. After looking at it for a while, he sat back in his original position and said, "All right, I'm done." Gu Ming Ming felt like she was holding back a mouthful of blood and really wanted to spit it all out on Lee's face. But since she had a favor to ask of him, she still lowered her arrogance. Clearing her throat, she smiled apologetically and said, "Daddy Leah, don't just look, you have to treat him. Elvis is the leader of Saint Nazaire. As a wolf, how can his nose be damaged?" Leah sat at his original position without moving and said, "I can treat his nose, but you have to sing me a song first." Gu Ming Ming pulled Lee's arm and said, "Treat Elvis first, then I'll sing for you." Leah did not budge no matter how much Gu Ming Ming pulled and tugged at him. He said with a wronged expression, "That won't do. Previously, when you asked me to treat his back, you promised me 3 conditions. In the end, you only fulfilled 1 condition of letting me stay here. Don't mention singing to me. You didn't even bother to acknowledge me these few days. If it wasn't for Elvis injuring his nose today, I don't know when I would be able to hear you call me Daddy Leah again. No. If you don't sing first, I won't treat him. Just let his nose be swollen." Gu Ming Ming gritted her teeth and forced a smile. She asked, "Is it fun for you to do this?" Leah looked at Gu Ming Ming's unwilling but helpless look and nodded seriously. Gu Ming Ming sighed and took a step back. "I will sing while you treat Elvis's nose. Deal?" Leah thought about it and said, "All right." With that, Leah stood up and found some herbs from the bee skin bag he brought. Holding them in his hands, he turned back to look at Gu Ming Ming, implying that he would not treat her if she did not sing. Gu Ming Ming had no choice but to sing it. Luckily, he did not insist that Gu Ming Ming must sing A Little Happiness. As long as it was not that song, other songs did not have such a huge psychological burden. Chapter 258. Elvis and Leah were facing each other with smiles on their faces, but it was clear that they were in different states of mind. When Leah was done treating Elvis's wounds, Gu Ming Ming's singing stopped abruptly. Pulling Elvis over, Gu Ming Ming thanked Leah in a hurry, but still wanted to pull Elvis into the cave. Returning to their original living quarters, Elvis held onto Gu Ming Ming's waist and circled her in his arms. His blue eyes stared deeply at Gu Ming Ming. His thin lips pursed tightly, but he did not say a word. "What's wrong?" Gu Ming Ming looked at Elvis, her fingers touching his nose gently, asking with a pained voice, "Does it still hurt?" Elvis held on to Gu Mengming's little hand, sliding it down from his nose until it landed on his chest. His voice was very soft, but when it landed on Gu Mengming's ears, it made her heart throb. Here, it's sour. Huh? Gu Mengming smiled at Elvis, a tinge of joy in her eyes. Elvis felt a little awkward. Males in the beast world could not express their desire to monopolize females because they would be hated and spurned by them. In the entire beast world, there had never been a male who could monopolize a female. The family of the previous messenger of the beast deity was so huge that it was comparable to a tribe. But his Xiao Ming was different. She always encouraged him to express his true emotions. So although Elvis was hesitant and uneasy, he still said his truest thoughts. I felt uncomfortable when I heard you singing for him. Gu Mengming's smile grew wider. Thank the heavens that this brother could still be jealous, or else she would really think that Elvis did not care about her at all. Gu Mengming purposely teased Elvis, tapping his head. You felt uncomfortable when I sang a song? Then which idiot invited him to my bed in the morning? Elvis replied with a serious face. I thought you liked it, so I did it. Gu Mengming pointed at her face speechlessly, asking, Does it look like the words unladylike are written on my face? Elvis did not know what unladylike was, so he could not answer Gu Mengming's question, so he could only change his answer. I remember that you used to like Leah and me to sleep beside you in our original forms, so that you could sleep comfortably and wake up in a good mood in the morning, rolling around on top of us. I just wanted to make you happier, so I let Leah sleep with us. Gu Mengming recalled the morning when she first arrived and laughed dryly. She was dating Leah then, right? She did not feel uncomfortable when Elvis was by her side. Now that Elvis and Lee's roles were reversed, she actually kicked Leah off the ground. It turned out that her feelings for Leah had been reserved ever since then. Thinking about it this way, she did not seem to have any grounds to criticize Leah. Straightening her expression, Gu Mengming wrapped her arms around Elvis's arm and leaned on his shoulder, asking, Then if I say that my mood will be better when I wake up in the morning and see Wu Yinzu, will you also place Wu Yinzu in my bed? Elvis remained silent for a moment before rejecting her righteously. No. Gu Mengming asked, Why? Leah can, but Wu Yinzu can't? Chapter 259. Gu Mengming was amused by Elvis's logic. She looked at him helplessly and asked, Won't you feel uncomfortable if you let someone else sleep with me? Elvis frowned and answered yes. Gu Mengming's heart warmed and she calmed down. She asked again, Since you will feel uncomfortable, why do you still want to do this? Elvis played with Gu Mengming's long hair and said helplessly, According to the rules of the beast world, a male cannot stop a female from taking a new partner. Otherwise, even if he is the first partner, he will be abandoned. I don't want to be abandoned by you. Gu Mengming pulled her collar and revealed her collarbone. That lifelike black wolf was sitting on her collarbone proudly, dominating the area. Gu Mengming said, I will not abandon you. Even if I will quarrel and throw a tantrum, I will never abandon you. So, you don't have to suffer like this. You obviously feel uncomfortable, yet you still want to stuff someone else into my bed. I don't like you to be so aggrieved. My man should be indomitable and heroic. Elvis's gaze flickered and he curled his lips. He pinched Gu Mengming's little chin lightly and asked, If Barit comes to court me again, can I send him flying? Gu Mengming thought about it and felt that Barit was quite pitiful. But compared to her man's mental health, Gu Mengming decided to sacrifice Barit. Anyway, she would not kill him. Barit would not dare to come again after being beaten up. That might not be a bad thing. Thinking about it, Gu Mengming nodded her head in agreement. Elvis's smile deepened, and he asked again, If Leah asks you to sing for him again, can I send him flying? Gu Mengming did not know why Elvis was so obsessed with singing, but she was not a young singer and did not have the fetish to enjoy singing every day. If Elvis could help her block Lee's a song a day, Gu Mengming would be happy to see it happen. After all, singing the little love song to her ex-boyfriend in front of her husband every day was really stressful. Gu Mengming did not know why Elvis was so obsessed with singing a little love song every day. So, Gu Mengming nodded her head happily. Elvis's smile deepened, and he squinted his eyes, as if he had thought of a big move. He carried Gu Mengmeng horizontally and whispered in her ear, "If Sandy keeps coming to find you, can I send Bode flying?" Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. "Sandy came to find me. Why did you go to Bode?" Elvis shrugged his shoulders in frustration. "Sandy is a female. She can't take a beating. You'll be sad if you accidentally kill him. I won't do anything that will make you sad. Because I like you, I'm nice to your friends. This kind of love me, love my dog, is precisely the expression of his love for you in his heart. If it was in the modern world, Gu Mengmeng would probably be a little wary. After all, it was not a joke to guard against fire, theft, and besties. But in the beast world, such a situation would not occur. This made Gu Mengmeng feel extremely fortunate. Wrapping her arms around Elvis's neck, Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, "Compared to beating them up, I have a better suggestion." Elvis tilted his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng's mischievous look, waiting for her to continue with an eager expression. Chapter 260. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng and pressed his forehead against hers intimately, whispering into her ear, "Gu Mengmeng, I love you. Gu Mengmeng, I love you. Gu Mengmeng, I love you." Gu Mengmeng smiled in response to Elvis's gentleness, whispering into his ear, "Hubby, I love you too." At that moment, Elvis felt that there was only warmth and happiness left in his life. The bloody, cold, and darkness in the past were just a nightmare, and Gu Mengmeng was the hand that woke him up gently. Her gentleness was what he had been yearning for his entire life. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips, gently caressing her lips and tasting the fragrance in her mouth. His slightly rough fingers brushed past the wolf on Gu Mengmeng's collarbone, giving off a strange feeling that could not be described. Elvis laid on his back, placing Gu Mengmeng on his abs, his large hand holding onto Gu Mengmeng's slender waist. Gu Mengmeng sat on Elvis's stomach. Although she had only experienced mating once in her life, it was very magical. Just by looking into Elvis's eyes, she could clearly understand what he wanted to do. Gu Mengmeng bashfully hammered Elvis's chest, whispering, "Leah is still outside." Elvis held onto her little fist, pulling her into his arms gently, kissing her little face, then whispering into her ear, "It's all right. He was there the previous time, too." Gu Mengmeng's face flushed red instantly. The previous time she screamed as miserably as a pig being slaughtered. It would be fine if only Elvis heard it. But why did even Leah? She really could not tell. Leah looked so dignified. How could he have the fetish of eavesdropping? Gu Mengmeng hammered Elvis's chest. "Then why didn't you remind me the previous time?" Elvis sucked on Gu Mengmeng's little earlobe, and his voice had already become a little hoarse. It was obvious that he had already entered the zone. He did not answer Gu Mengmeng's question and just used his warm words to brush against Gu Mengmeng's earlobe, using his unique tenderness to say, "Gu Mengmeng, I love you." Gu Mengmeng's ears were very ticklish, especially when Elvis's big hands were getting more and more restless. One hand was pinching her waist to prevent her from running around, while the other hand was exploring her spine as if he was lighting a line of fire on Gu Mengmeng's back. It was scorching and numb, causing her to twist her body uncontrollably. It seemed like she was struggling, but more like she was teasing him. "Last time, I was afraid that you would get hurt, so I didn't dare to use my full strength. It's been hard to hold it in these few days. Xiaomeng, don't reject me, okay?" Gu Mengmeng sneaked a peek at Elvis's size. The pain from the previous time instantly awakened in her memory and exploded. She did not know if it was a psychological effect, but Gu Mengmeng could even faintly feel the pain from that time. Blushing, Gu Mengmeng said softly, "You also know that our sizes don't match." The previous time, I'm still hurting now. Elvis saw the redness on Gu Mengmeng's little face, and his originally blurry eyes were covered with a thick layer of crimson. His blue eyes became as deep as the ocean, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. He was like a god of war who had descended from the heavens and was tainted by the flames of the mortal world, giving off a different kind of allure. Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng's little hand and kissed it coaxing her, "I was inexperienced the previous time and hurt you. This time, I'll be gentler." Gu Mingming wanted to cry, but no tears came out. What's the use of being gentler? You have to make that thing smaller. Aside from the topic, yeah, the password is in the author's words in the next section, and the link is in the group announcement. QQ Group 49277927 The rule of entering the group is to try not to send me private messages, because if everyone keeps sending me private messages, I won't have time to write. Chapter 261. Elvis flipped over and pinned Gu Mengmeng under him. He kissed her from the side of her face to her neck. Elvis's words landed on Gu Mingming's skin along with his warm breath. It was as if every word was a scorching sensation, making one's heart flutter. "All right, then let's become smaller." Gu Mingming hammered Elvis's shoulder and said, "Who are you trying to fool?" But Elvis just smiled and planted a deep kiss on Gu Mingming's eyes, saying, "Don't look at anything other than me." Gu Mingming's heart melted from Elvis's words. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and said with a trembling voice, "I don't want to look either, but I'm scared." Elvis looked at Gu Mingming's pitiful look and knew that she was really scared. But seeing how scared Gu Mingming was, he could not bear to force her. So Elvis, who had decided not to have sex today, kissed Gu Mingming's lips and comforted her. "Don't be scared, I won't hurt you." Gu Mingming whimpered. Although she was scared, she still decided to trust Elvis. After all, they had already become partners. They could not possibly not be fish for the rest of their lives, right? She had to get used to this kind of thing. Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's thigh gently, helping her to soothe her emotions and relax her muscles. The gentle kneading made Gu Mingming's emotions slightly more relaxed. She stretched out her limbs lazily like a cat, allowing Elvis to do whatever he wanted. Elvis's slender and powerful legs hooked onto Gu Mingming's calf lightly, entangling their legs together. The back of his hand followed Gu Mingming's waistline down to the back of Gu Mingming's waist, pulling her into his arms. Intimately smelling her unique fragrance, an indescribable feeling of peace spread throughout Elvis's entire body. He could feel that this little person was really existing in his arms. Her beauty and everything about her were not his imagination. This was enough to make him feel happy. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming, who was tipsy and had a dazed gaze. He really wanted to see her crying and begging for mercy again. Their stomachs overlapped, and Elvis's scorching heat warmed Gu Mingming's slightly cold abdomen. Waves of warmth spread into her body from her navel. Gu Mingming moaned in comfort and stretched out her arms to hug Elvis's neck. What happened next came naturally. Some words were omitted here. After Gu Mingming fell asleep in Elvis's arms, Elvis kissed her forehead that was stuck to her hair and said gently, "Next time, don't torture me like this, understand?" Gu Mingming was extremely tired and did not really listen to what Elvis was saying. She just moaned and fell into a deep sleep. Elvis pulled over a piece of bee's skin and covered both of them. Under the bee's skin, their fingers were intertwined. One was sleeping peacefully while the other was engrossed in watching. It was as if time had stopped here and had no effect on them. Suddenly, Elvis furrowed his brows and looked towards the entrance of the cave. Not long after, Leo walked in with his brows furrowed. He was afraid of disturbing Gu Mingming, so he did not make a sound. He just pointed outside with his chin, signaling Elvis to come out and talk. Elvis nodded and carefully covered Gu Mingming with the bee's skin to ensure that no cold wind could enter. He then added 2 more firewood into the fire before following Leah out of the cave. They had not walked far when Elvis felt that the temperature in the cave was not right. The snow seal at the entrance of the cave had been opened by someone. Digression. Password. FE per readers. 49277927 No password was needed to enter the group as the password was used to retrieve the files. Chapter 262. With this knowledge, Elvis immediately raised his guard. On the other hand, Leah patted his shoulder lightly, signaling him not to be nervous. Elvis had absolute trust in Leah. Leah knew that Gu Ming was in the cave, and if it was really dangerous, he would definitely not be so calm. Thinking about this, Elvis relaxed a little but still maintained a vigilant attitude. He followed Leah to the outermost room of the cave. Birds tried. Elvis looked suspiciously at the man standing outside the entrance of the cave. There was a sickly look in his delicate features, and he looked weak and listless. But his posture against the wind and snow was much more docile than the average person. His skills were not as weak as he looked. Elvis noticed that there were 2 feathers in the hair above his ears. That was the unique characteristic of the Birds tribe and the Beast tribe. But the Birds tribe had always prided themselves as the rulers of the sky and rarely had any dealings with the Beast tribe. That was why Nina could run amok in St. Nazaire for so many years with just Quentin. But now, this person from the Birds tribe had come to them on his own accord? Could it be? Elvis cast his gaze at Leah, asking him if he knew anything. Leah gave Elvis a look, signaling him not to worry. This bird tribe's motive for coming here was different from the people in Sauter. Elvis then relaxed slightly. He took a step forward and stood at the edge of the cave entrance. I'm the leader of St. Nazaire. Elvis, what business do you have in my territory? That man sized up Elvis from head to toe. After confirming Elvis's identity, he then said, Leader of the Eagle Owl tribe, Ian, I heard that you have sufficient food reserves. If you are willing to share some with me and my tribesmen to help us survive the winter, we will join St. Nazaire and become your tribesmen. How about that? The alliance of birds was a huge temptation to any tribe, especially the ferocious birds like the Eagle Owl tribe. If they could join, it would definitely be like adding wings to a tiger. If it was in the past, he would definitely not hesitate to give all his food to the Eagle Owl tribe. But now, he did have food reserves, but these were prepared for Xiao Meng, sacrificing Xiao Meng's food in exchange for the tribe's strength. Elvis was not willing. We do have food, but how much do we need? Leah understood Elvis's worries, but he also knew that this was a rare opportunity. If they missed this chance, it would be very difficult to invite the Birds tribe to join them again. Our Eagle Owl tribe doesn't have many members. Including me, there are a total of 32 males. As long as you can provide me with 10 prey, in addition to our own, we should be able to survive this winter. The price that Ian offered could be considered as sky high, because in winter, let alone 10 prey, even half a prey was extremely precious. Many males were prepared to stew themselves to fill the stomachs of their females. So how could they have extra prey? Furthermore, there were 10 of them. Originally, Ian had planned to let Elvis bargain, but he did not expect Leah to agree to it with a slight smile. Chapter 263. Ian looked at Leah with a disdainful expression. He raised his head and said, Us Eagle Owl tribe are birds that fly in the sky. We are closer to the beast deity than you beasts. We will never go back on our words. Leah did not mind Ian's disdainful attitude. He just casually took a small bowl that Gu Ming used to eat from the side. Then he scooped half a bowl of water from the pot that had yet to cool down and passed it to Ian. He said, I am St. Nazaire's witch doctor, Snow Fox Leah. If you sincerely wish to join us, I will represent St. Nazaire to form a blood alliance with you. From then on, there will be no more Eagle Owl tribe in this world, only the stronger St. Nazaire. How about that? Ian's expression changed. Witch doctor, a deity that could communicate with the beast deity. And it was from the Snow Fox tribe. Ian frowned. Signing a blood alliance with such a person would not allow him to go back on his word. His decision now would affect the future of the entire Eagle Owl tribe. Could St. Nazaire really be entrusted to him? Leah was not flustered. He just held the bowl and smiled faintly. He said, If I am not wrong, the Eagle Owl tribe should be at the end of their rope now. Otherwise, the arrogant bird tribe would not be willing to give up their tribe name to seek help. I guess your tribesmen will not be able to hold on until you find a second tribe that is willing to share food with you. Moreover, in the entire beast world, there is no other tribe that could possibly have enough food to share with you. Ian's thoughts were clearly seen through. His brows furrowed even tighter, and he tightly closed his lips, no longer speaking. Foxes were cunning, and snow foxes were especially good at reading people's minds. He could not reveal any more information. That would only make him more passive in this negotiation. Leah did not mind Ian's guard. He just continued, a tribe without any females other than gradually disappearing. What other outcome would there be? Joining Saint Nazaire is currently the most advantageous situation for all of you. Other than being able to survive this harsh winter, you can also ensure that you will have sufficient food to fill your stomachs every winter in the future. If you are lucky enough, you can even mate with the females in the tribe and conceive cubs. Of course, you can also reject and fly away. The tribe leader and I can't and won't stop you. It's just a pity that a tribe might cease to exist after this winter. After Leah finished speaking, he looked at Ian with a tinge of sympathy. Ian clenched his fist and replied, I can sign a blood oath, but I have to sign it with your clan leader. Leah raised his eyebrows and lifted his chin. If you don't want to sign, then forget it. But don't blame me for not reminding you. If you missed the chance to join us, when the other people from the Flying Tribe join Saint Nazaire next year, I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to come again. Ian looked at Elvis, who was standing behind Leah, without saying a word. He just stood there quietly and did not even emit any powerful aura, but Ian could clearly feel his power. Saint Nazaire? Ian savored the name and looked at the black and white duo in front of him. A tribe leader and witch doctor like them should be able to bring the Eagle Owl tribe to a brighter future, right? All right, I'll sign. Ian nodded. Then, he plucked out one of the two feathers on his ear and handed it to Leah. Leah used this feather to prick his finger and dripped a drop of blood into the bowl. When the blood met the snow water, it bloomed like a rose in the dark night. Leah gently dipped the feather into the blood water and pierced it between Ian's eyebrows, leaving a blood-red cinnabar mole. At this point, the blood oath was formed. Aside from the topic. Chapter 264. Leah arranged for Ian and his tribesmen to stay in his own cave. The food stored here was just scattered pieces of meat, skinless and boneless. But just by looking at it, one could tell that there were more than 10 of them. There was definitely more than enough. There were also all the other herbs that Ian's tribesmen did not recognize, so there was no point in keeping them. Leah then wrapped them in bee skin and brought them back to Elvis's cave. By the time Leah had settled everything and returned, Gu Meng Meng had woken up from her dreams in a daze. She held on to her waist and was limping as she chased after Elvis. Elvis dodged while not daring to run too fast, ensuring that Gu Meng Meng would hit him every 2 to 3 times. Anyway, it was not painful, so he just treated it as playing with her. Leah leaned against the door and watched the commotion in the cave. He thought he was just smiling faintly, but he did not know that the envy on his face was so much that it could not be concealed. The moment Elvis turned around, Gu Meng Meng, who could not stop in time, fell into his arms and bumped into him. Gu Meng Meng was about to reach out to pull Elvis's ear when Elvis looked at Leah with a serious face and said, Leah, you're back. Gu Meng Meng's little hand turned halfway and scratched her head. She used her elbow to secretly nudge Elvis's waist and said softly, I'll let you off today. After that, he turned around and went back to his own room. After Gu Meng Meng left, Leah looked at Elvis and asked, What happened to Meng Meng? Why did she hit you again? Elvis shook his head helplessly and said, I don't know either. Everything was fine at first, but she asked me if she became fat. I said yes, so she started chasing after me and hitting me. Leah looked at Elvis suspiciously and said, You didn't say anything else? She got angry just because I said she became fat? Elvis nodded with a serious face. Leah was also at a loss and asked in confusion, Isn't it a compliment to be able to gain weight during winter? Why did she get angry? Think again, did you do anything else? Elvis thought hard for a long time and confirmed that he really did not do anything else. The two males looked at each other and remained silent. Meanwhile, Gu Meng Meng, who was in the deepest part of the cave, had the veins on her forehead twitching. She could not bear it any longer and roared, Can you guys speak softer? King heard everything. Elvis and Leah shuddered and immediately changed the topic stiffly. Ian and the rest of the tribesmen have all been arranged. We will officially introduce them to the rest of the tribe during the rainy season next year. Saint Nazir will have heir power in the future. Elvis nodded in agreement. Do you think they are trustworthy? Leah nodded and answered, they have already signed the blood alliance. They won't dare to go against it. As they were talking, Gu Mingming peeked her little head out from the entrance of the cave and waved at Elvis, asking him to come over. Elvis thought that Gu Mingming wanted to hit him a few more times, so he smiled indulgently and said, It's all right. Leah is not an outsider. You don't have to be afraid of him. If you want to fight, then come and fight. Gu Mingming held her forehead and wrinkled her nose. What nonsense are you spouting? When did I say I wanted to hit you? I'm so gentle and virtuous. Chapter 265. Gu Mingming accepted Elvis's compliment with a clear conscience. Because the snow sealing the cave entrance had been broken twice, it was not sealed very tightly, and there would always be a cold breeze blowing in. Gu Mingming snuggled deeper into Elvis's arms and found a comfortable position to nestle in. She looked up at Elvis and asked, What are you guys talking about? Can I listen? Elvis pulled a long bee's skin from the side and wrapped Gu Mingming up. He checked carefully to see if there were any exposed areas that would be blown in by the wind while replying. Silly girl, Saint Nazir is your tribe. Why can't you listen? Gu Mingming was a little pleased, but she still said, You are the great tribe leader who built Saint Nazir from scratch. Saint Nazir is yours. If you think it's inconvenient for me to listen, I can just avoid it. Elvis made sure that the beast's skin had connected seamlessly to his body and that Gu Mingming would not be blown by the cold wind. He then freed one hand to receive the cup of water from Leah. He tested the temperature of the water, and it was a little warm, which was suitable for Gu Mingming. He then brought the cup to Gu Mingming's mouth to feed her water while replying, I am all yours, so Saint Nazir is naturally also yours. Gu Mingming smiled and said, Such a sweet mouth. After drinking a mouthful of water fed by Elvis, Gu Mingming then raised her head and continued asking, Then what's up with the Eagle Owl tribe that you guys mentioned just now? Elvis placed the cup at the side and gave Leah a look. Leah then answered Gu Mingming's question. Do you still remember the stray beast from the previous time? Gu Mingming frowned and instinctively shrunk into Elvis's arms. She nodded her head, obviously still having a lingering fear. Lee's heart ached a little. If he knew that they would be lured into Elvis's cave by Gu Mingming's singing and scare her badly, he should have gotten rid of them when they stepped into Saint Nazir. But now that things had come to this, he could only be more cautious in the future. He could not turn back time and return to the past. He sighed softly and continued, I originally thought that those who ran away were frozen to death outside. I didn't expect that one of them was only frozen stiff and not completely dead. After that, he recovered and ran to the Eagle Owl tribe to snatch food, but was subdued by Ian. To save his life, he told Ian about the food reserves in Saint Nazir. So the Eagle Owl tribe followed the stray beast directions and came to seek shelter with us. Eagle Owl, what animal is that? It can fly? Gu Mingming's mind was filled with the giant eagle following behind Yonghua. That fellow looked like it could only eat, but could not fly. Did the Eagle Owl race look like that too? Standing together with Quentin, who had a broken arm. Is this a barbaric version of cosplay? Yes, it can fly. Leah did not know why Gu Mingming's expression became a little strange, but she seemed to be in a good mood, so he did not mind it too much and continued asking. You have to make the decision on this matter. Do you want to take them in? Me? Gu Mingming pointed at her own nose and asked, Why am I the one in charge? Didn't the two of you, the chief and the witch doctor, already decide? I heard you say just now that you have already signed a blood alliance with them and given them your prey. How can you go back on your word? You could go back on your word if you don't agree. Leah said, The one who signed the blood alliance is me and not Elvis, so you don't have to worry. Aside from the topic, do you remember what Leah said when you killed Damagua? You still have to hug Gu Mingming. It's not good to dirty your hands. Chapter 266. Gu Mingming vaguely sensed a strange yet unsettling element in Lee's words, so she asked, If we go back on our words after signing this blood pact, how will it affect both parties who signed the pact? Leah was surprised at Gu Mingming's sharpness, but also felt a sense of warmth. She did not ignore it just because it had nothing to do with Elvis, perhaps. She still cared about him. The suffocating feeling in Lee's chest loosened a little. He tried his best to look nonchalant, but his eyes never left Gu Mingming's little face. He was so desperate to see an answer from her face. Any answer would be good. Thus, he said each word slowly and lightly, with blood as an oath. If you regret it, you will die. TSK. Gu Mingming frowned and said angrily, "Have you ever been kicked in the head by a donkey? How can you sign such a pact with others so easily? What if the other party has a bad character and uses Saint Nazir's name to swindle others and create trouble? We can't even chase them away." Gu Mingming patted her head in despair and said, it's over. It's easy to invite them in, but hard to send them away. God bless us. Please don't let these people from the Eagle Owl tribe be evil people." Leah tried to understand Gu Mingming's worries, then replied, "Once they join Saint Nazir, they have to be controlled by Elvis and me and follow the rules of Saint Nazir, or else we have the right to banish them and execute them. So what you were worried about will not happen. I have checked carefully today among their tribe. There are no orcs above the 3rd level. None of them are a match for Elvis and me." Gu Mingming rolled her eyes at Leah, looking at him as if she was looking at an idiot. "They can fly. Can you too?" Leah choked, but his heart melted a little. The last time Gu Mingming spoke to him so naturally was before winter. His smile deepened and Leah was in a good mood. Even his tone became more relaxed as he replied, "So I signed a blood pact with them. Once they don't listen to us and become a threat to Saint Nazir, I can activate the blood pact to kill them on the spot." Gu Mingming did not feel relieved at all because of Lee's preparedness. She just glared at Leah gloomily and said, "Yes, kill them on the spot and sacrifice your own life at the same time. Are you courting death? Courting death or courting death? You can't bear for me to die?" Leah asked cautiously. Gu Mingming was shocked and instinctively raised her head to look at Elvis. She felt as if she had been caught red-handed by her own husband. He felt so guilty. Licking her lips, Gu Mingming buried her face in Elvis's chest and said gloomily, "It's everyone's responsibility to cherish life. Every life should be treated with kindness." Although it wasn't the answer he wanted to hear, but it meant that she cared about him and couldn't bear to see him die, right? Leah smiled even more brightly. Even though Gu Mingming could not see, he still used his most gentle gaze to stare at the little human who was wrapped tightly in bee skin in Elvis's arms. He replied, "Don't worry, the flying beasts claim to be the closest to the beast deity. They are a tribe that takes promises very seriously and will not usually do anything that goes against their vows." Chapter 267. Leah was rendered speechless by Gu Mingming's retort and could only shake his head helplessly, smiling faintly without saying a word. Elvis, on the other hand, tidied up the bee skin, wrapping Gu Mingming gently, exposing her little face from the bee skin to prevent her from suffocating. Then, he replied, "Quentin did those things not because of his evil nature, but because the female he fell in love with was Nina. The males in the beast world may have all kinds of personalities before mating, but once mating, the personality of the partner will determine the male's emotions. They will infinitely get closer to their partner's preferences, turning themselves into the person she likes more." Gu Mingming looked up at Elvis, her eyes filled with confusion. Elvis smiled and tapped her little nose, saying, "If one day you ask me to kill another female, I will do it without hesitation. If it's what you want, I will even do it more cruelly than Quentin." Gu Mingming shuddered and hugged Elvis's waist, saying, "Hubby, calm down a little." Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and sighed, saying, "What a pity you never gave me the chance to do anything for you. Sometimes I even envy Quentin. Although Nina is not good, she gave him so many chances to do things for her. And I did not even do one thing to prove my loyalty for you." Gu Mingming knocked Elvis's head, saying, "What nonsense are you spouting? Is what Nina did testing the loyalty of her partner? She did it as the damn representative of courting death. We're not the same kind of people. I also don't wish for you to become a puppet like Quentin who can't tell right from wrong. Moreover, I feel that you have already done enough for me. I don't need to worry about where I will stay in this world of ice and snow. I don't need to worry about what to eat or what to wear. Even if stray beasts suddenly rush in, I know you will protect me. Even if I can't even tell the difference between day and night in the cave, I still feel very safe. All of this is because of you, who said that to prove one's loyalty, one has to go through perilous situations. It's the most romantic thing to be able to accompany me to watch the long river flow. Do you understand?" Elvis rested his chin on the top of Gu Mingming's head and swayed his body gently. He said gently, "But all these, every male can do it for you. I want to do something that no one else can do for you. I want to make other females envious of you." Gu Mingming smiled and shook her head. "I don't need others to envy me. It's enough for me to know that I'm living a blissful life." Elvis sighed, but there was no other way. His Xiao Meng had always been special. The more easily satisfied she was, the more he felt that he had not done enough for her. After thinking for a while, Elvis said, "Xiao Meng, do you have anything in particular that you want? Tell me, I'll help you find it." Gu Mingming smiled and said, "Yes, I have something that I really wanted, but I already got it." Elvis thought that even if she already had it, he could find more for her, so he asked, "What is it?" Gu Mingming sat up on her knees and held Elvis's face in her hands, giving him a kiss. "A wolf in love." Elvis nodded. Elvis's heart warmed up. He smiled and pulled Gu Mingming back into his arms. He kissed her lips back and did not let go for a long time. Leah felt that Gu Mingming should not be in the mood to care about the Eagle Owl tribe anymore. Based on their pace, it was almost foreseeable what would happen next. Just when Leah was about to leave, he suddenly heard Gu Mingming retch. Then she pushed Elvis away and squatted in a corner to vomit. Digression. So, Chapter 268. The two males panicked. Elvis hurriedly fetched some water to rinse Gu Mingming's mouth, while Leah moved to Gu Mingming's side. He used one hand to pat her back to soothe her breathing, while using the other hand to touch her forehead to feel her body temperature. Her temperature was slightly higher, but it was still within a healthy range. Her face was rosy and her breathing was stable. Everything was normal. But why did she vomit? "Xiao Meng, come and drink some water." Elvis passed her the warm water, and Gu Mingming took it to rinse her mouth. She forced herself to drink a few mouthfuls before she could breathe again. She looked at Elvis pitifully with her red eyes. She had vomited till she had no energy left in her body, and now she was especially longing for Elvis's embrace. Elvis opened his arms to hug Gu Mingming with heartache. He patted her back gently to soothe her emotions. Leah, on the other hand, hurriedly went to check on the food residue that Gu Mingming had eaten today. After confirming that there was nothing unusual, he then checked on Gu Mingming's vomit, and there was nothing unusual too. Everything was normal, but she vomited. Lee's mind suddenly lit up, and he immediately transformed into a fox. He moved to Gu Mingming's side and sniffed between her legs. Hey, what are you doing? Leah, don't be like this." Gu Mingming shut her legs tightly and used her hands to push Lee's head with all her might. Elvis knew that Leah would not cause trouble for no reason, but his current actions still made Elvis very unhappy. Thus, he carried Gu Mingming on his shoulders and stood up to look at Leah, who was in his beast form. "Xiao Meng told you not to be like this. She doesn't like it." Leah did not transform back, but just used the beast language to squeak at Elvis. Elvis's body first trembled, and then he froze as if he was petrified. What's wrong?" Gu Mingming patted Elvis's face and asked. Elvis turned his head with difficulty like a rusty robot and looked at Gu Mingming. Can you let him smell carefully?" "Elvis!" Gu Mingming roared. "Are you a freaking pervert? Would you be excited to have someone else sniff your wife's body?" Scram. "Lil Miss won't cooperate with your disgusting taste." "Xiao Meng, don't be angry. You can't be angry." Elvis was a little incoherent and almost bit his own tongue when he spoke. Gu Mingming became even angrier upon seeing him like this. She slapped his head and said, "Stop talking nonsense. No means no." Leo was so anxious that he kept walking in circles. Seeing that Gu Mingming refused to cooperate and Elvis could not persuade her, he could only transform back into his human form and pull Gu Mingming down from Elvis's shoulders. However, he did not have any lingering feelings between a man and a woman because he had not touched her for a long time. He just said to Elvis with a straight face, "She doesn't want me to smell, so you do it. Hurry, you can smell better in your beast form." Elvis did not dare to waste any time at all. He instantly transformed into a wolf and leaned in between Gu Mingming's legs to sniff. Then, he looked up at Gu Mingming in a daze before burying his head to sniff again. Gu Mingming was so angry that she raised her leg and kicked Elvis's face. Her hands were not idle either. She pulled Elvis's hair with all her might and struck a weird pose of a martial arts master who punched a witch doctor and kicked a tribe leader. Gu Mingming took the opportunity to run into another cave while the two of them were still in a daze from the beating and could not react. She had only taken 2 steps when Elvis, who had transformed back into his human form, hugged her tightly from behind. Just as Gu Mingming was thinking of a way to break free, she heard Elvis say in an agitated and trembling voice, "Xiao Ming, we have a cub." Aside from topic, applause sounded, "All right, this is how things are. So, everyone can send their blessings." Chapter 269. Gu Mingming's first reaction was to laugh out loud and slap Elvis's arm. "Stop fooling around. How is that possible?" Elvis turned Gu Mingming around gently, but did not allow her to resist. He looked in her eyes and said seriously, "I am sure you are pregnant. If you don't believe me, let Leah confirm it again. F***K. Do you think your nose is a B scan and you can tell if I'm pregnant just by smelling it? Why don't you just go to heaven?" Gu Mingming could not maintain her smile because the 2 fellows in front of her, their expressions were so damn serious that it was scary. "I'm a wolf, I can't fly." Elvis was a little hesitant. He started to regret accepting the Eagle Owl tribe. What if Xiao Ming fell in love with them because they could fly? Gu Mingming really wanted to laugh, but she could not. She raised her trembling finger to point at Leah and asked, Are you sure?" Leah smiled, and there was an indescribable passion in his eyes. It had nothing to do with lust or love. It was the passion of a person who had been trapped in the darkness for a long time and finally saw the light. He took a step forward and said, "I am 80% sure. If you can let me confirm it in detail." Gu Mingming raised her hand and made a gesture to stop him. Leah indeed stopped talking immediately and exchanged glances with Elvis. Both of them were so nervous that they held their breaths and looked at Gu Mingming, who looked like she was struck by lightning. They did not know what her next reaction would be. "Ah, wah wah wah." Gu Mingming's legs suddenly turned to jelly and she sat down on the ground. Luckily, Elvis's reaction was fast enough, and he turned himself into a praying mat made of wolf meat to catch Gu Mingming firmly so that she did not fall onto the ground. Leo was also panicking. In his impression, once females heard that they were pregnant, they would all be so excited that everyone in the world would congratulate them. Why did Gu Mingming look so sad? Elvis's heart ached too. The hand that was carrying Gu Mingming touched her flat stomach. His heart sank into extreme torment as he watched her cry, so heartbroken. After a long time, he finally said, "Xiao Ming, if you don't want to give birth to little wolves, I'm only 19. Where I come from, I'm not even at the legal age for marriage. I'm still a baby. How am I supposed to raise a child?" Sob, sob, sob. Does it hurt to give birth to a wolf? Will I give birth to a husky with a human head? What if my son is a monster? What should I do? Elvis did not know how to comfort Gu Mingming because he could not understand her worries. But he knew that Gu Mingming was crying not because she was unwilling to give birth to his cubs. This made him feel at ease. As long as it was not because of this reason, he had the confidence to face any other problems and difficulties. Thinking about this, Elvis gently wiped away Gu Mingming's tears and comforted her. "Don't worry, I'm here. Don't worry, I will go." Gu Meng Meng exploded and punched Elvis's chest harshly. She said angrily, "Damn it, you didn't give birth to me, and you're not the one in pain." "It's easy for you to say that." Elvis frowned and looked at Leah, asking, "How painful is it when a female gives birth?" Elvis smiled bitterly and said, "I have never given birth before." Elvis stayed silent for a while and asked again, "Didn't you help Nina before?" Leah recalled and said, "It was quite easy for her to give birth that time. I did not hear her cry out in pain." Elvis heaved a sigh of relief and patted Gu Mingming's back lightly. "See," Leah said, "it was not painful." Gu Mingming said angrily, "Nina lays eggs and the eggs are so small. Have you given birth to wolves before? Can wolf cubs be as big as eggs? Even if I did not study much, you cannot lie to me like this." Aside from the topic, yeah, I have to thank my little baby Ling Ling. Gu Mingming showed off her hand-drawn cartoon to the author's group chat yesterday and felt that she was so awesome, she drew it super cute. Chapter 270. Elvis and Leah were instantly shocked. Their expressions were as if they had discovered a shocking secret. Gu Mingming felt even more uncertain after seeing that. She pointed at Elvis and Leah and said, "I knew it was easy for you to talk. You guys have no experience at all. Are you trying to use me as a lab rat?" "I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it." Elvis hugged Gu Mingming to prevent her from hurting herself due to being overly agitated. He was very careful with his every move, afraid that she would be wronged. "Xiao Meng, don't be afraid. I will go and find other females from other tribes who have given birth to wolf cubs before to ask. I will tell you once I'm clear, all right?" Gu Mingming pointed at Elvis's nose and looked at him as if she was looking at Chinchimmy. She said, "I worked so hard to give birth to a son for you, and you actually want to leave me when I'm pregnant?" Elvis did not know how to explain himself. He shook his head and waved his hands innocently. Leah said, "Then I will go ask. I am a snow fox, and my chances of surviving during winter are higher than yours. You stay and take care of Gu Mingming. I will go ask." Elvis frowned and said, "No, you are the witch doctor. If anything happens to Xiao Meng, it will be safer for you to be there. You cannot leave." Then, the two of them were in a dilemma. They looked at each other, but could not think of a solution. Gu Mingming stiffened her neck and kicked Elvis again. She said, "Stop talking nonsense. I won't give birth anyway. You can give birth yourself." Elvis and Lee's eyes lit up at Gu Mingming's words. Elvis asked, "What are the chances of success?" Leah replied, "I don't know. I have never tried it before." Elvis remained silent for a moment before saying, "Put all the risks on me. You just have to promise not to hurt Xiao Meng." Leah and Elvis started to size Gu Mingming up seriously. That expression, Gu Mingming really felt that she was a lab rat. What you guys doing?" Gu Mingming was so scared that she even forgot to cry. "We are thinking, what are the chances of success if we take the wolf cubs out of your stomach and place them into Elvis's?" Leah answered honestly. Gu Mingming rushed up and slapped Lee's face. She glared to stun Leah and Elvis, who were stunned, and roared, "Do you have any humanity? Cut open my stomach. Can I still live? Could the child survive? Do you think this is the little gecko borrows its tail? You can grow it back if you cut it off." Gu Mingming grabbed onto Elvis's bee-skin dress and pulled him towards her. She stared into his eyes and said, "We just mated and it's not even winter and you're already tired of me, right? You want to team up with Leah to kill me so quickly so that you can marry a young and beautiful one? There's no more love, is there?" Elvis really felt that he could not explain himself and hurriedly shook his head. No, I'm just afraid that you will suffer. My heart aches for you." Gu Mingming pushed Elvis and said, "If you really dote on me, you shouldn't have made me pregnant back then. Why are you acting like a hindsight now?" Elvis lowered his head, like a child who had done something wrong. Gu Mingming calmed herself down, as if she was tired after messing around. She stepped on the side of the bed with one leg and placed the other on the ground casually. She hugged the leg that was stepping on the bed with both arms and rested for a while before continuing. "Elvis, let me ask you, do you want this child or not?" Elvis hurriedly nodded his head. Yes. Aside from the topic, update announcement, We have successfully passed the first round of PK in QQ Book City. Now we will begin the second round of PK. From today until next Tuesday, we will maintain updates with 6 updates every day. Babies, please continue to work hard and leave comments and votes. Then, please try to help me light up 5 little stars when you are commenting. I love you guys. Thank you, babies. Thank you, QQ Reading Baby, Ruyu for tipping 100 reading points, and thank you, Ling Ling, for tipping 388 reading points. Chapter 271. Gu Mingming asked again, "Then after giving birth, will you love the baby or me?" Elvis answered, "Both." Gu Mingming lifted her chin and asked, "Who do you love the most?" Elvis hugged Gu Mingming and said gently, "Of course I love you the most. This will never change." Gu Mingming then nodded her head in satisfaction and asked again, "Then will you not love me anymore because I lost my figure after giving birth?" Elvis really did not have any concept of losing his figure, but he was very sure that no matter what Gu Mingming became, he would still love her. So he shook his head firmly and said, "I swear to the beast deity, I will love you forever and love you more and more every day." Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and hugged his waist, saying, "You said it. If you have a change of heart in the future, I will bring my son back to where I came from and never come back, so that you will never be able to find us." Elvis frowned and held on to Gu Mingming's shoulders, saying, "Take it back, take it back." Gu Mingming pouted, feeling so wrong that she wanted to cry. Elvis's heart ached, but he refused to back down. Using a pleading tone, he said, "Whatever you want, I will do as you please. But you're not allowed to say or even think about leaving me." Gu Mingming did not give in and straightened her neck, saying, "You have a change of heart and you still don't allow me to leave? Are you being reasonable?" Elvis held on to Gu Mingming's little hand and placed it on his chest, frowning and saying, "If you have a change of heart, then dig it out. But you're not allowed to leave me." Gu Mingming tried to retract her hand, but did not succeed. So she used her other hand to hit Elvis's chest, saying, "I can't even beat you. Why would I dig it out? As long as you say it, I will dig it out personally for you." Elvis said. Gu Mingming turned her face away and said, "You have a change of heart. Will you still listen to me?" "I will not have a change of heart." Elvis pinched Gu Mingming's chin and turned her little face towards him, kissing her lips without any explanation, as if it was a punishment, but more like a silent promise. Gu Mingming was kissed dizzily and only regained her freedom when she was out of breath. Gu Mingming was kissed till she was dizzy and only regained her freedom after she ran out of air. Elvis placed Gu Mingming's little ear on his left chest, let her listen to his heartbeat as he swore, "I, Elvis, will only love Gu Mingming as the only female in my entire life. If I go against this oath, I'm willing to suffer the pain of being skinned and having my bones torn apart." Mingming, Gu Mingming's ear. Gu Mingming looked up and said, "Mingming, Mingming, Gu Mingming. Mingming, Chigu Gu's this. Ling's A. Elvis is A. Gu A and Mingming MG God. Gu Elming her." Elvis cupped Gu Mingming's little face and kissed it. Then he said, "Promise me. Don't ever say that you want to leave me again. Do you hear me?" Gu Mingming nodded in agreement. Elvis heaved a sigh of relief and said, You have a cub now. You can't run around recklessly. You will be in big trouble if you fall." Gu Mingming nodded and said, "For the sake of my baby's safety, I will not run around anymore. I will walk slowly and pay attention to my own safety." Elvis said, "Don't even walk, just lie down. If you want to do something, just tell me and I will do it for you, understand?" Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby from Xiaoxiang Academy. Intoxicated by the spring breeze for the flowers. Yeah, I know you must ask where 075 went. No need to look. 075 is not there, because when I was saving the manuscript, I did not know why there was a missing number in the editing chapter. I did not notice it at all. It's too late to change it now. The later chapters will be messed up. So this chapter's content is the same as the previous one, but the number is skipped by 1. Chapter 272. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in shock. She blinked her big eyes and said, "Then what if I need to poop? You'll me poop." Elvis paused for a moment and said, "I'll carry you there." Gu Mingming covered her face and laughed. "Stop fooling around. Pregnancy doesn't mean you're completely paralyzed. Do you really need to be unable to walk? At my place, pregnant women need to exercise moderately. That way, it'll be easier to give birth and reduce the possibility of dystocia." Speaking of this, Leah also leaned forward and started listening to Gu Mingming's little lecture with a serious face. Gu Mingming held her lecture and pointed at the water cup not far away. Leah immediately understood and filled the cup with warm water and placed it in front of Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming nodded like an old professor and took the cup to drink a mouthful of water. Then, she started saying, "During pregnancy, a female's body structure will undergo a huge change. If she doesn't exercise for a long time, her muscles will degenerate and it'll directly lead to a lack of muscle strength during childbirth. If her muscles lose strength halfway through childbirth and the baby gets stuck there, tisk, it'll be a tragedy." He looked at Leah seriously, then at Gu Mingming and said, "Then from tomorrow onwards, I will accompany you to exercise and strive to fill your body with energy 2 months later." Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Then I will accompany you to exercise from tomorrow onwards." Gu Mingming's eyebrows twitched. She had a bad premonition. It was as if she could see herself being trained by Elvis to become Najah from 100,000 Cold Jokes. 2 months later, Gu Mingming shuddered and hugged her own shoulders, saying, "Everything has to be done in moderation. Exercise must be moderate and scientific. If you don't exercise, you won't have enough muscle strength. But if you exercise too much, it might affect the baby's qi and cause a miscarriage. By then, the baby will die in the womb, and both of them will die." Gu Mingming was halfway through her sentence when she suddenly thought of whether wolves were restricted by the one-child policy. If she gave birth to too many children, it would be a serious problem if she brought her husband and son back to her parents' home one day. So, she tilted her head and asked Elvis, "How many offspring does your wolf tribe usually give birth to?" Elvis said, "Usually it's 3 to 9, but I think I've also heard of one that gave birth to more than 10. Gu Mingming really wanted to roll her eyes and kill herself. Giving birth to twins in the modern world was already awesome enough. How many people would be envious of triplets? But when it came to her, triplets were just jumping valves. What the heck? Gu Mingming could almost see herself giving birth to a bunch of huskies. That feeling. Gu Mingming shuddered and patted Elvis's shoulder, saying, "Then this is a serious matter. If the fetus is affected, it could be 10 lives in one body." Elvis's brows formed a dead knot as he looked at Gu Mingming with pursed lips. At this moment, he was really regretting. If he knew that giving birth was so dangerous, he should not have let Xiao Ming get pregnant. Gu Mingming saw how frightened Elvis was, and the little devil in her heart was secretly satisfied. So, she patted his shoulder and said, "Although a woman giving birth is like a day trip to the gates of hell, and she could be pulled into the underworld any time to tour it. However, this is a woman's duty after all. As long as she eats and drinks well during pregnancy, maintains a happy mood, and exercises appropriately, the probability of accidents during childbirth will be greatly reduced." Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby from Xiaoxiang Academy, Luminili, for the 50 flowers. It was the first time I received such a huge bouquet of flowers. So happy. Chapter 273. Elvis and Leah engraved Gu Mingming's words into their hearts, as if they were listening to the Empress Dowager's decree. They completely did not realize that Gu Mingming's words were mixed with lies. She was a university student who had never been in a relationship before. All her birthing experience was learned from television dramas and novels. But it was better than nothing. Compared to Elvis and Leah, these two ancient people who had no knowledge and common sense and did not even watch television, Gu Mingming was already considered knowledgeable. The two males exchanged glances sternly. They did not even open their mouths to communicate and had already assigned their tasks. Leah turned around and asked Gu Mingming with a smile, "Tell me, is there anything you want to eat in particular? I'll help you find it." Gu Mingming looked at the white world outside and shook her head helplessly. "Didn't you say that we can't go out when the snow seals the mountain?" Leah swung his large tail and said in a slightly arrogant manner, "Normal orcs can't, but I'm a snow fox. The snow during winter is my world." Leah sent his tail into Gu Mingming's arms. Gu Mingming rubbed it instinctively and realized that as compared to before, Lee's tail seemed to be much thicker. Looking closely, there was a thick layer of fur growing on the part that was close to his skin. If Lee's tail was said to have an enchanting fairy aura in the past, it was now 100% cute and furry like an anime. Suppressing her desire to stroke it, Gu Mingming forced herself to let go. She turned around and pounced into Elvis's arms. She hugged Elvis's waist tightly with both her hands, but could not help but stare at Lee's tail. Damn, furry fetishism was really hard to cure, especially when it came to such a white, soft, and fluffy tail. She really had no resistance against it. Gu Mingming puffed up her little face and said, "It's useless even if you can go out. There's nothing to eat in this world of ice and snow. If there's really something, the people in the tribe don't need to talk about the cold anymore. Before winter, everyone looks like they're bidding farewell to everyone." Leah was more or less disappointed that Gu Mingming did not hug his tail like before. But seeing that Gu Mingming's expression was no longer as determined and indifferent as before, Leah already felt very happy. He took a step forward and half knelt in front of Gu Mingming. His two furry little ears were fluttering on the top of his head, while his large tail that resembled a cat teaser swayed to and fro without any rhythm. He stretched out a furry paw and placed it on Gu Mingming's thigh, looking very much like Daji from King of Glory, except that it was a snow-white male Daji, and it was the one with thicker fur. Tilting his head and elongating his neck, his perfect side profile matched with his long and narrow eyes. His gaze was shallow, but full of affection. With a slightly seductive tone, he said, "They're not worth it for me to brave the wind and snow to look for them. And you deserve everything I have." Undeniably, Gu Mingming's heart palpitated again because of Lee's actions. Biting her lower lip, Gu Mingming turned her neck back forcefully and buried her entire face into Elvis's chest. She muttered in her heart, "You must be a woman. You must be a woman. Damn it. Mental infidelity is also infidelity. It's equally unforgivable." Elvis gently cupped the back of Gu Mingming's head. He could see all her reactions and changes towards Leah even more clearly than Leah. Perhaps because she cared, she was especially sensitive. Aside from the topic, thank you to Shaoxiang Academy's babies Weixin 140272 and Mayuan 65 for their evaluation votes. Chapter 274. Leah did not force Gu Mingming to give any reaction. He just chuckled, stood up, and walked out of the cave. As he turned around, his large tail brushed against Gu Mingming's waist lightly, not knowing if it was intentional or not. Through her clothes, she felt a tingling sensation. Elvis brought Gu Mingming back to the depths of the cave. The snow sealing the entrance of the outermost cave seemed to be in a state where it could no longer be sealed after being smashed over and over again. As Leah entered and exited, the cold wind kept gushing in. Gu Mingming was carried back to her own cave. She still felt a little cold, so she asked Elvis to use bee skin to block the entrance of the cave. Elvis punched 2 pieces of firewood as thick as a forearm into the top of the wall. A mottled tiger skin with 2 front claws tied to the wood became a crudely made but unusually luxurious bee skin curtain. After going through a few turns in the cave, there was not much cold wind that could enter Gu Mingming's cave. With this tiger skin curtain blocking the wind and Elvis's method of burning firewood for free, Gu Mingming's cave was the warmest place in the world. Gu Mingming sat on the chair and kicked her little feet in boredom. She looked at Elvis and asked, "Hubby, can I hug your tail?" Elvis was boiling water on the fire to keep the cave moist and prevent Gu Mingming from having a nosebleed again. He turned back to look at Gu Ming Ming and said, I thought you don't like it. Gu Ming Ming tilted her head and asked, Why not? You're my hubby. Elvis set up the pot properly and returned to Gu Ming Ming's side. He did not sit on the bed, but sat on the floor with his knees bent. He leaned his shoulder against Gu Ming Ming's knee and pulled her little hand over to play with it gently. His gaze was a little dim. The fire was so close to him, but it could not light up his eyes. My original form is not as pretty as Lee's. I don't have white and soft fur like his. Gu Ming Ming hugged Elvis's neck and shook it. She knew that Elvis would feel that he was not as good as Leah. It was mostly because she had shown too much infatuation with Lee's original form in the past and neglected Elvis's feelings, causing him to feel so inferior. Feeling a little guilty, Gu Ming Ming's voice also softened. Is it because of this that you rarely revert to your original form in front of me? Elvis nodded and avoided her eyes for the first time. He was afraid of seeing disdain and disgust in her eyes. That's right, compared to the likable Leah, who would like to be dressed in black. Gu Ming Ming held Elvis's face and turned him toward her. She looked straight into Elvis's eyes and said seriously, But I have already mated with you. I can't possibly go and play with other people's bodies, right? I'm pregnant with your child right now. Do you have the heart to not even let me have such a small wish? Elvis did not reply and just slowly transformed his own tail. He was not as confident as Leah to flaunt it in front of her. That black tail made him feel a little ashamed. He wanted to gain her love and approval, but he was also afraid that she would despise him when things went wrong. Hence, that large tail revealed a small edge behind his back. Hesitating, Gu Ming Ming did not care so much about him. She scooped up Elvis's large tail and hugged it in her arms. She carefully stroked it a few times before saying in surprise, Wow, you're really hiding it well. Aside from the topic, today's update is over. Tomorrow will still be 6 updates, babies. Remember to vote and leave a message. When you leave a message, please help Susu to light up 5 little stars. Thank you to Xiaoxiang Academy's babies, WayXN140272, and Mayuin65 for their votes. Chapter 275. Elvis's expression froze as he looked up at the surprised look on Gu Ming Ming's face. Was she pretending to like him to comfort him? Gu Ming Ming rubbed her face against Elvis's large tail, her mood soaring. Unlike Lee's tail, Elvis's tail was not as fluffy, nor did it have a firm layer of fur. The fur was slightly harder than Lee's, but it was not to the extent of prickling her hands. Gu Ming Ming inserted her fingers into the base of Elvis's tail and stroked the fur upwards. The feeling between her fingers felt like she was skimming over a fine beach. It was clearly filled with hard particles, but it carried the warmth of the sun and a unique delicacy. This was different from Lee's absolute fluffiness and softness. It was soft with a hint of firmness, fluffiness with a hint of stubbornness. The punk style of the furry world. Gu Ming Ming's intoxicated look made her forget herself. That soft gasp of admiration turned into a whimper in her throat. It was the first time in his life that a magical feeling came from his tail, causing Elvis to be petrified. From Gu Ming Ming's actions and gaze, he could clearly feel that Xiao Ming really liked his tail and was not pretending to comfort him. This knowledge made him very excited, and the electric current coming from the tip of his tail directly charged a certain part of his body. The uncontrollable change made him feel rather uneasy. He secretly looked at Gu Ming Ming, who was unable to extricate herself from stroking his tail. He realized that she did not notice his abnormality at all, so Elvis fell into a strange struggle. He really wanted to pounce on Gu Ming Ming, but she was so focused on stroking. Would she be angry if he disturbed her? What if she cried out of anger? It was said that pregnant women should not be angry. They must maintain a good mood to give birth successfully. But what if she could not hold it in any longer? Gu Ming Ming felt Elvis's tail gradually stiffening. She kicked Elvis's but in dissatisfaction and said, What are you doing? Relax. Elvis swallowed his saliva with difficulty, then lifted his bee-skin skirt helplessly and said, Xiao Ming, it's a little difficult for me to relax now. Gu Mingming then noticed Elvis's huge reaction. She was so shocked that she hurriedly hugged his large tail to calm herself down. She stroked his large tail while saying, "Elvis, calm down. I'm in the early stages of pregnancy now. I can't withstand your torment. If you poke me with that stick, my baby and I will really die in front of you." Elvis had a bitter and conflicted look on his face. His deep eyes clearly showed that he was burning with lust. He stared at Gu Mingming, but did not dare to act rashly. Gu Mingming cleared her throat. She could not bear to see Elvis being so aggrieved, so she cleared her throat and patted the seat beside her, saying, "Why don't you sit over here? I'll think of another way to help you." How could Elvis not be satisfied? Thus, he flipped over and climbed onto the bed, lying down obediently, not moving an inch. Elvis's actions were so swift that the large tail that was originally in Gu Mingming's arms slipped away. How could this work? Gu Mingming slapped Elvis's buttocks, and with a crisp smack, Elvis's face instantly burned up, bearing with the dryness in his throat. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming while panting heavily. He looked just like a frightened grandmother wolf. "What are you looking at? Who asked you to pull your tail away? Quickly return it to me, or else you can just hold it in. I don't care about you." Gu Mingming raised her head with an expression of a queen attacking. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling of Xiaoxiang Academy, LJH1 31998386 for your rating ticket, and thank you to the little darling of QQ Reading, Jido, for her 99 reading points password, 7K3Y Daily Group Expansion, for 927797273. Chapter 276. After all, Gu Mingming was still responsible to Elvis. Since she had lit the fire, she had to extinguish it herself. However, this person in charge was semi-automatic. Halfway through, she fell into a deep sleep from exhaustion, leaving Elvis to slowly deal with the rest. Luckily, Elvis's heart ached for her and did not dare to torture her too much. After releasing it once, he cleaned up the mess for her and placed her on the bed to let her sleep. After getting pregnant, Gu Mingming could sleep even better than before. When she woke up due to thirst, she did not know how much time had passed. Gu Mingming lifted the bee's skin, and before her feet touched the ground, Elvis had already passed her a cup of water. "You're awake? Drink some water to moisten your throat." Gu Mingming tasted it lightly. It was warm, and the temperature was just right. Gu Mingming felt much better after drinking a cup of warm water. Stretching her arms, she leaned on Elvis's shoulder lazily and asked, "How long did I sleep?" In Elvis's world, there is no such thing as a few hours to keep track of time. After thinking for a while, he could only reply vaguely, "I slept for most of the day." Gu Mingming rubbed her flat tummy. She did not look any different, but when she knew that there was a baby in her tummy, she still felt that it was very magical. Although she did not feel hungry, but even if the adults did not eat, the little ones still had to eat. Although Gu Mingming did not have much experience as a mother, she knew that she could not let her own children starve. So Gu Mingming rolled up her sleeves and prepared to make some food. When she walked to the pot, she remembered that Leah had left before she went to sleep, saying that he was going to look for snacks for her. She slept for half a day. Why didn't she see Leah when she woke up? Gu Mingming turned around and asked Elvis, "Did Leah come back when I was asleep?" Elvis took out a piece of bee skin and put it on Gu Mingming. This piece of bee skin was designed according to Gu Mingming's own ideas. It would be an exaggeration to say that it was a design. It was a complete piece of giant rabbit skin with the front paws and soles removed, then sewn into a simple sleeve. Gu Mingming's arms were thin and could fit through it. The back legs only needed to be sewn according to the thickness of Gu Mingming's calf. A few bee skin ropes were tied around the abdomen. Actually, it looked like mini one-piece cartoon pajamas on Taobao, just that Gu Mingming was wearing a giant rabbit. The fluffy white fur complemented Gu Mingming's skin very well. Before the firelight, she was like a jade doll emitting a warm glow, making people want to get close and protect her. Elvis helped Gu Mingming put on the giant rabbit pajamas while replying, "No, it's very difficult to find food during winter. I reckon it would take at least 3 to 5 days. Oh. Gu Mingming was a little depressed, feeling that her character was really not that good. She clearly knew that Leah was treating her so well to redeem their relationship, but she had already mated with Elvis and could not possibly reconcile with Leah. Yet, she still made him do all this for her. She really smelled like a rotten green bitch. Elvis did not know what Gu Mingming was thinking about, but seeing her depressed look, he felt a little depressed. Wrapping his arms around her waist, Elvis hugged her from behind and whispered into her ear, "Why? Miss him? Do you want me to find him for you?" Gu Mingming pinched her nose and said exaggeratedly, so sour. Aside from the topic, thank you to the QQ reading babies covering the moon, like the moon, seeing the deer in Han Shur, Firefly Deer on the other shore for gifting 100 reading points. Thank you to all the babies who supported Susu during the PK period. This is the last PK chance we have before we go on the shelves. If we pass it, Susu will get a very important recommendation spot. This spot is really very important to Susu. So babies, please help me to leave more comments and that free recommendation ticket every day. Please give it to me. Please, please, if we win the second round of PK, there will be a third round of bonus points. If we lose, then Win-Win will go on the shelves directly. Chapter 277. Elvis smelled it seriously and didn't notice any sour smell. He didn't mind and just stared at Gu Mingming, squinting his eyes and saying, "Is it because I didn't satisfy you just now?" So, as Elvis said, he carried Gu Mingming up horizontally. Needless to say, he was going to make up. Gu Mingming hurriedly shook her head and said, Don't. I'm pregnant and I can't overwork. My old waist is still hurting now." Elvis looked at Gu Mingming's exaggerated acting and couldn't help smiling. He tapped her little nose and said, "You can have many partners, but you must love me the most." Gu Mingming raised her eyebrows and looked at Elvis with a strange gaze, unable to differentiate between joy and anger. Elvis's heart tightened. Did he cross the line? This kind of request, females really don't like it. Elvis sighed. What did he say just now? But Gu Mingming grabbed Elvis's ear and twisted it, pulling it upwards. She said with a smile on her face, "I can have many partners? What do you mean? Are you suspecting me of having an affair with Leah? Or are you expecting me to have an affair with Leah?" Elvis's ear hurt from being twisted, but he felt a tinge of sweetness in his heart. Gu Mingming's strength was not light. She didn't let go as she questioned, "Why? Do you think I'm annoying and want to push me into someone else's arms? You don't want your wife and children anymore?" Elvis didn't care about his ear and just hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and kissed her, saying, "I can't wait for you to only have me by your side, but I want you to be happy." Which eye of yours saw that I'm not happy? Gu Mingming saw that Elvis's ear was already red from being twisted, and her heart ached so much that she let go. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Elvis stiffly. Elvis's mood was a little down as he said, "You looked so disappointed to find Leah not around when you woke up." Gu Mingming poked Elvis's brows and said, "Leah is not my husband. He braved the wind and snow to find snacks for me and is still not back so late. How can I have a clear conscience and pretend that I don't know how to eat and sleep? If we owe them a favor, how are we going to return it in the future? It would be great if nothing happened to him. If something happened to him, I would be traumatized for the rest of my life. It's only right for males to do things for females. If it wasn't for the fact that only Leah could move freely during winter, I think all the males in Saint Nazaire would be willing to do these things for you." Gu Mingming once again felt the communication barrier caused by the difference in views. She remained silent for a moment to organize her thoughts before asking, "Why do males treat me so well? Just because I'm a female? Or is it because you want to express your goodwill and mate with me?" Elvis was confused. "What's the difference?" Gu Mingming said, "If someone treats me well and I accept it, I have to repay them in some way. For example, I ordered Bode to find the honey because I taught him how to get it without getting hurt, and he gave me some of the honey I taught him. I accepted it without any burden. But if he wants to give me half of the fish he catches, I can't take it. Similarly, I can accept the food, bee skin, and other daily necessities that you prepared for me because you're my husband. But I won't accept these things if they're given to me by others. Because if I accept them, it will give others a wrong hint and make them feel that they can mate with me if they put in more effort for me. Aside from the topic. Chapter 278. Elvis listened without fully understanding and did not interrupt Gu Mingming's words. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and continued. If you're not really considering accepting him as your partner, you should not have given him such an illusion right from the start. This kind of use is too shameless, and a person of integrity like me cannot do it. And now, Leah is staying in our cave because of your injury, and his cave is temporarily occupied by the Eagle Owl tribe. He helped us when we were in danger. We can't possibly burn the bridge and chase him away, right? So I agreed to let Leah stay in our cave, but I don't want to receive too much care from him. Gu Mingming paused and sorted out her emotions before continuing. Leah and I, you know about it too. But no matter how much I liked him in the past, now that I have become your partner, I don't want him to think that we can return to how we were in the past if he treats me better. So the best way is to not cross that line and maintain a distance that is neither too far nor too close to each other. If you want to look for snacks for me today and only needed about half an hour to return, then I can accept it. We are friends. It is normal for him to run errands for me when I am pregnant. But if he needs to be gone for 3 to 4 days, to me, it is too much of a burden. After hearing that, Elvis remained silent for a long time. His blue eyes were as deep as the ocean. He pondered for a long time before asking, Leah, you really don't intend to forgive him? Gu Mingming did not answer and asked back, You hope that I can forgive him? Elvis hesitated for a moment, but eventually nodded his head. Gu Mingming sat back and pulled some distance away from Elvis. She frowned and asked, And then? What do you hope that I will do after forgiving him? A blood vessel popped out on Elvis's forehead. His struggle and conflict did not need to be described, and it was obvious. After what felt like a century, Elvis finally replied with a dry voice, Accept him and let him be your partner. What about you? Are you leaving me? Gu Mingming asked coldly. Elvis looked up suddenly and shook his head firmly. I will not leave you. Not at any time. Gu Mingming crossed her arms in front of her chest and said, I can only have one partner. You know that. Elvis tried to hold Gu Mingming's hand, but was flung away by her. Elvis knew that Gu Mingming was angry, but he still decided to continue. Taking 2 steps forward, Elvis circled Gu Mingming in his arms and rested his chin on Gu Mingming's neck. His voice was so hoarse that it made one's heart ache. I long to enjoy you alone, to let you belong to me alone. But other than the time he spent with you, his life was worse than death. There is only hatred and destruction in his eyes, just like me back then. Gu Mingming could vaguely feel something. She could not describe what she was thinking, but she knew that she should listen to Elvis's words quietly, so she did not struggle anymore and allowed Elvis to hug her and talk about his past with Leah. We are all people standing on the precipice, teetering on the brink of collapse, yet blindly walking towards the abyss of eternal damnation. I'm very lucky to have you holding me back. Leah originally had such a chance to. Elvis sighed and said, Until we met you, Leah and I finally came back to life. If we had not met you, we would have continued living on hatred. But now, if we lose you, there is nothing else that can support us to continue breathing. Aside from the topic. Chapter 279. Elvis could tell from Gu Mingming's expression that she wanted to know what had happened in the past. Although those memories were not pretty, and it would be bloody if he peeled open his wounds. But if he could talk about those things other than Gu Mingming, there was no one else he could open his heart to. Elvis sighed and asked, Where do you want to start? Gu Mingming placed her little hand on Elvis's chest and placed it on his left chest to feel his heartbeat. She leaned into his embrace gently and said softly, Start from the part where you are willing to share with me and where you will not feel uncomfortable. Elvis recalled his past seriously. When he was hugging Gu Mingming in his arms, he suddenly felt that the countless sleepless nights and the hatred and bloodlust in his heart were not worth mentioning. After having Gu Mengming, he felt that those torturous days were just a nightmare that passed by in the blink of an eye, so blurry and insignificant. Since she was talking about Leah, then he should put those painful past aside for now. Xiao Ming's mood would only be affected if she knew about those unhappy things. With that thought in mind, Elvis hugged Gu Mingming's shoulders and said slowly, "Let's start from the day I met Leah. At that time, I was still a lone ranger, and I met Leah, who was covered in wounds in the depths of the forest. He was on the verge of death and could not even maintain his human form, but he refused to lie in the ditch and wait for death like a normal beast. Instead, he raised his head and stared in one direction with determination. I did not know what he was looking at. I only knew that gaze. I had seen it countless times in the reflection by the water." Elvis paused and smiled sarcastically. He continued, "I don't even know what I was thinking at that time. For some unknown reason, I gave half of my food to him. Then, I sat together with him and ate the first meal of my life with someone accompanying me peacefully. That feeling was very strange. It was clearly the first time we met, but it felt like we had known each other for a long time. We did not need to say anything, and we could understand each other's thoughts. Or, it was not that we did not need to say anything, but those feelings could not be expressed in words." Elvis looked down at Gu Mengming and asked, "What are you laughing at?" Gu Mengming rubbed her tummy and answered, "If I had not mated with you, I think I would really believe that you and Leah are a couple." Gu Mengming had already answered this question a long time ago. Elvis frowned and sighed. "How can two males form a pair?" Gu Mengming pouted and mumbled softly, "Only people of the same sex need to attack and receive. How can people of different genders love each other?" "What did you say?" Elvis gritted his teeth in anger. "How can we love each other when we are of different genders? Now that they had a baby, what else could it be if it wasn't love?" No, you can continue." Gu Mengming waved her hands and apologized for ruining the atmosphere. Although she was not sincere at all, Elvis did not continue as he thought of something else. He cupped Gu Mengming's little chin and said, "I remember you had thought of this before. You even treated Lee's prayer as a forced marriage on me on the day of the coming-of-age ceremony, right?" Gu Mengming burst out laughing when she thought of how Leah dressed up strangely and stood on top of the wooden pagoda. She nodded her head in delight. "Then, who do you think is the one on the attack and the one on the receiving? Aside from the topic that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel, we're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.